first two sets are down and only one more to go in the fourth week of the SPL on this lovely Sunday afternoon. It's going to be the Highland Ravens and Eldritch Hounds now facing off in our final best of three of today, and a big match for both these two teams. Remember, when we looked at the standings before the break, it was Camelot Kings on top with 5 wins for themselves, everybody else right behind at 4. See, that means that anybody still has a chance to make it up into the top, and one of these two teams with a win here can put themselves right in that contention point. It's J-Mac and Mifflin joining me here on the desk as we get ready to jump into our third set of the day. Man, Highland Ravens, Eldritch Hounds, the glow up that the Eldritch Hounds have had since the beginning of the season all the way up until now, even from qualifiers to this point, feels like a completely different team. Highland Ravens, from the kickoff, their early exit during that tournament, have been having a pretty breakout performance themselves.
Yeah, I think a very impressive freshman year so far from the Hounds. And even if they weren't to get another win throughout this phase, I think they can look back on this one and be pretty happy with their performance. Might even be like history book level, right? It's not many teams that qualify in from the SEC and have as good a time here in the SPL as the Hounds have, but just a ton of talent behind this team, and they've harnessed it well here. The growing pains of trying to shift campuses from SEC to SPL clearly hasn't been wearing on them too much.
Yeah, a little bit of that veteranship from their mid laner Benny, from Ducky as well, has really been able to kind of shape this team up to try and get things going for the Eldritch Hounds. We got a lot of chances to talk to some of the members of the Eldritch Hounds, but let's go ahead and talk to the coach for the Hounds, Chuck, standing by for our pregame interview.
That's right. I got him right here. Look,
hey,
the whole coach.
That's me.
And I'm actually really excited to talk to you about this because it feels like things, we spend some time in the Chaos Division and it's like very one-sided conversation. You guys are in the running, and maybe more in the running than some people had anticipated at the very beginning. Up into the standings, I'm just kind of curious, like over the last few weeks, what is it that has shifted for the Hounds to really get back into this?
We've kind of just figured out, or started figuring out, I guess, how we want to play.
Mm-hmm.
And we've just had more time together because obviously our team. Oh, don't you start, Mifflin. Obviously our team is new. We've got to get our feet under us. So
yeah.
It's always going to be a learning process. But I think with the caliber of the players that we have, it's once we start figuring it out, it's just only going to get better.
And you're going up against the Ravens today, right? You win this, you're actually tied with the Kings at 5-3. You supplant the Ravens moving up. What kind of preparation goes into a set that has this kind of weight behind it?
Yeah, it's definitely weighty. We can't exactly give specifics, obviously.
No, I want to know the exact matchup. What's Ducky playing today?
Yeah, you look at their drafts, we have a pretty good idea of how Ravens want to play. So it's about adjusting how we want to play, because that's a lot of our style, I feel.
Yeah.
Like where we like adjusting how we approach games based on the teams that we play. So
study a lot of the footage, see what they've been doing, what's been good, what's been bad, and then try to figure out what you guys can do well against that, right? It's the fun play to watch, right? Because the adaptations that you guys bring into the game. I'm also looking a little towards the future, because it's not just this set, but next week for both you and the Ravens and the Ferrymen at that point. Like, I believe the Ferrymen play Hounds, Ravens. You guys play Ferrymen, Kings. Ravens play Ferrymen, Kings. It feels like with everybody so close, there is a lot at the very end of the phase here for you. So what is the mentality, not just for today, but like the next week? Is it just grind, or is there something else the team's bringing to it?
Yeah, with how the standings have gone, it's definitely, put a bit more emphasis on, oh, hey, we can actually finish really high here. That's a
pleasant surprise.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Don't mind that. So there's definitely more emphasis, I think, now that it's like within reach of, oh, hey, we can actually prove ourselves to be one of those top contending teams. It's it makes these next few weeks and this game especially pretty important. So
and makes them spicier for the viewer, right? At least for us, we know it's going to be entertaining, and I'm sure that's what everyone's excited for. Good luck in your games today, man. Thanks for your time, and we'll go back to the desk.
Coach not wanting to give away too many secrets going up against them, and you gotta at least put a little bit of respect in not wanting to reveal anything up to the enemy team. You never know what the Highland Ravens might be cooking up for themselves, but Eldritch Hounds have certainly shown that they are a force to be reckoned with at this point. You know, as a team that came in, we were wondering, you know, it's a majority SCC team, haven't had chance in the SPL. A couple of players haven't seen top-level competitive play just yet, wondering how these guys are going to do adjusting to the SPL. Well, it seems that with the tutelage, that's the word I was going for, with Ducky, with BennyQ, and even bringing this coach in, really has seemed to have made things a little bit easier for Oathhh and for Quig to adjust in here, and then VaporishCoast coming from Console Pro League at one point, back down to SCC, and now into the SPL. I'm excited to see what this Hounds team can do for the remainder, not just of this phase, but as the year goes on. But the Eldritch Hounds do have to face off against the Highland Ravens, a very veteran team going up against them, one that had a bit of a rough start coming into the season, at least as far as the kickoff was concerned. But I mean, maybe mentioning that Oni Warriors not the easiest team to try and fight up against for themselves, have really proven that they definitely deserve their spot here near the top of the division.
Yeah, I would say throughout the phase had a breakout performance, has since then cooled off a little bit, but still certainly one of the teams that you need to keep your eyes on. The Highland Ravens, a diverse squad, a group of guys and fellas that have really figured out how they want to play SMITE, and it's looked very good. I think it's a very backline-centric team. BaRRaCCuDDa, Ven, major win conditions here for this squad. Hurriwind fitting well into his support role, his first dedicated year to playing support at the SPL level, and has looked very well in it. But as far as what that consistent win condition is going to be, what's that consistent threat, who's that guy, right? When you think of these other teams that are world beaters, it's the Camelot Kings, and they're absolutely dominant control of the macro game. Or maybe you're talking about some of the Paul runs, where it's, you know, we call them the Paul runs because it's Paul. I'm still trying to figure out what that threat is for the Ravens, and that's what makes it so exciting to watch them, because it feels like it changes on the week. One day Haddix is going to come out and absolutely dominate and just be a behemoth in the front line, or BaRRaCCuDDa gets his Jingwei for the 150th time, and because of his inherent passive as John Salter, it's just going to be a good day for him. Or Ven lines up a miracle game on Zeus. They haven't locked in that one individual player that they can go through consistently, but in diversifying their win conditions have made it very difficult to play up against them. The Highland Ravens, and I've gone on record as saying this, one of my favorite teams to watch in League right now. It feels like every single one of their games has impact on standings, on the league, because they're so competitive and they're so back and forth. Just got to keep your eyes on them. And I'll say it again for the fans at home, if you only have the opportunity to watch one or two sets throughout the week, make sure you're catching the Raven ones.
Ravens have definitely been a very fun team to watch so far this phase. And not just, you know, diversifying their win conditions, as you said, by the individual players, but also their god pools. Yes, we joke about BaRRa playing a lot of Jingwei, but he's been able to mark up quite a few hunters for his name. Venenu, probably the most expansive god pool of all the mid laners shown so far. I think upwards of 10 to 11 different picks that he's been able to go through so far, just this phase alone, where a lot of other mids are sitting around 4, maybe 5 options if given to them. So a lot of options available to this team, not just in their ability to try and win a game through one of those players, but also what they can bring on field. And I think maybe right to highlight Hurriwind with his first full year now jumping into the SPL as a support. I've been loving what I've been seeing. I don't ever want to see him on Yemoja again, not because he's bad at it, but because he's so good at it. It is disgusting to watch, and maybe all fans at home, if you are against the Ravens, don't want to see him pick that, because it feels like that has become such a major win god for this player.
Has been. But I think the direct lane matchups are interesting here, because when I'm trying to evaluate the relative power levels of this team, I feel like there's probably a slight edge from Oathhh out of the jungle as of right now. When I look at Benny and Ven, it's day of, but I'd argue Ven a little bit more consistent. VaporishCoast and BaRRaCCuDDa. That's the crux of it, and that's why I bring up the entirety of the conversation. I'm really excited to see what that laning phase looks like. When I think of BaRRaCCuDDa at his peak, it's a very quiet laning phase, farms up well, doesn't fall behind, rotates and the team fight explodes. When I'm thinking of VaporishCoast, when he's at his peak, it's
guns blazing.
Guns blazing, just Wild West, run out there, get active, and make it happen in the lane. So I want to see those methodologies clash in lane. I'm very excited to see how this one pans out. I wonder if it's something the Ravens are concerned about. If BaRRaCCuDDa is confident in his ability to hold back the young gun in VaporishCoast, or if maybe it restricts Hurriwind to hanging out in lane a little bit more so and try and play into that aggression that the Hounds are mounting.
We'll have to see what all gets selected through. First couple of bans for each team, BaRRaCCuDDa and Hell. banned away from the Eldritch Hounds. Nox and Horus from the Eldritch Hounds, focusing mostly in that support role up against Hurriwind. But there's one god I still don't want to give to Hurriwind. It's Yemoja. He's had a 100% win rate on the god so far in the 4 games that he's gotten his hands on it. Don't want to let him have another opportunity there. And I was mentioning a moment ago how Venenu has probably the most expansive mid lane god pool. Scream in that same conversation for jungle. I'm not even going to try and count how many gods are here, but has only repeated 2 of his gods, won 3 times. He's played 3 Serket games, 2 Pele games, and every other game that he has played has been a different god up until this point. So you never know what Scream is going to pull out of the back pocket up against the team. With a Serket ban away from the Ravens, Eldritch Hounds left to 1 more selection for themselves, and quite a few options still available, Myth.
You know, Hercules, Horus, Yemoja, all incredibly powerful. Marty still out there. Cern. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, looking at the bans, they've banned out a lot of really good stuff. Excuse me, Horus has been taken away by the Hounds. So much value still on the table. Sustain seems to be at the forefront of the conversation. I wonder if the Hounds and the Ravens are still on the Aphrodite wave. Seems like, at least over the last couple of days, teams are starting to veer a bit more away from her. Yemoja to round it out for the Eldritch Hounds. Could be a Hercules here for the Ravens. You know Ducky is really excited to play the Hercules himself, so the Ravens likely have taken notice that, could decide to take it away from him just by picking it. And Haddix, of course, very, very good on that god. Could serve them well. Vamana, of course, massive power play. Instead, it is the Aphrodite. The Highland Ravens disagree with everybody else. It's just them and the Warriors now that have been going towards this pick, but this does leave a lot on the table for the Eldritch Hounds. Could be Vamana Marty. Could be just about anything. I mean, there's so much out there. Merlin was not at the forefront of my mind, but it is a smart takeaway. It's one that Ven has gone towards pretty consistently, and it's one of Benny's bread and butter.
And that Aphrodite, only 3 supports, or 3 players, I guess, just in general in the league who have found wins on this pick. 2 out of the 4 games for Hurriwind have been Aphrodite wins. Genetics and then Awesome Jake, the only other 2 who have found success on the pick. So, Highland Ravens at least have that in the back pocket. They've been able to find something with this Afro pick. And now linking it with Hercules and potentially a Hebo as well. A lot of carry potential for the late game, and taking the Hercules away from the Eldritch Hounds. Could be a dangerous top 3 for the Highland Ravens. What do the Hounds even get to answer back? Because, man, Mifflin, this is a scary first 3 picks for the Ravens.
An unkillable Hercules and a Hebo that's going to have a pocket Aphrodite in the late game. Spooky stuff. Who's going to be piloting the Hebo? We know Ven's capable. We also know that Scream's capable. So, curious to see how the rest of the draft starts to round out. Terra as the lock-in for the Hounds. Makes some sense to me, assuming that Aphrodite is slated for support. Was likely that the Ravens would dedicate a whole lot of their bans here to try and handle Quig on the other side. So grab yourself a priority pick. And there are still so many hunters available that I don't think you can ban out them all. Ram really starting to rise in the personal power rankings of these hunter players. Could even still leave that Marty available. More so a mid laner, I'd argue, and one that the Ravens might be willing to take for themselves, assuming that Hebo is going into the jungle. But what is it that both of these drafts need desperately? Because I'm not certain that either of them are really in need of anything to round themselves out. You've got initiation and backline dive already for the Eldritch Hounds. The Highland Ravens have got the exact same thing, plus the massive burst of their Hebo. Feels like the rest of these picks are just going to be the standard. We need someone that can burn objectives, your hunter, and then a luxury pick in 5th.
Now, final wave of bans. All assassins by both of these 2 teams. Naja Daji from the Eldritch Hounds, Fenrir Susano by the Ravens. And no jungler, at least to our knowledge, no jungler picked up. Vamana could flex over for Oathhh if the Eldritch Hounds so choose to do that. Put something else on Ducky, potentially for that role. I immediately do think Thor probably comes to mind for me when I think the Eldritch Hounds, a flexible god for both Ducky and Oathhh to run with. Give you a lot of maybe questions to be answered up against the Highland Ravens as to where one might go, where one might land. The Eldritch Hounds are taking their time, though, with this next pick. They still don't have their hunter. Neither do the Highland Ravens. Still a lot open, every single hunter. Not a single one takes a ban, not even the Marty.
Really?
And instead, it's Coast.
What?
Taking the Jingwei away from BaRRaCCuDDa. I'm gonna echo what you said earlier. Not the pick I would have seen for the Eldritch Hounds, at least in this position.
I mean, Coast is good at Jingwei,
Right.
and when Jingwei is at the top of the meta, he was playing it consistently. I think this is more so a pick away from BaRRa for the Ravens. Get him off something safe, remove that safety, and all of a sudden there's a little bit more solo potential. Perhaps that's the line of thought that Coast has brought to this selection. And it's not as if Jingwei is poor at all. Still a very good pick, scales well with crit, and it's so long as crit's in the meta, Jingwei has her home here too. Where does that leave BaRRaCCuDDa though? If it were any other hunter, I'd be talking about how it's just going to be like an immediate Cern lock-in or an immediate Ram snap lock. But it's BaRRaCCuDDa, and BaRRaCCuDDa's been playing Smite for a very long time. So you old heads that have been around since 2012, Xbalanque, back in the meta, I suppose. I couldn't tell you why. Feels like Xbalanque is just not great right now. Global blind, a slow with the poison darts, dot damage, CC immunity to dash, a strong stem. All that's pretty good. If you're going for the defense shred standard non-crit build, Xbalanque leverages it very well, but this is some out-of-pocket picks for the Ravens, and that's not even talking about the Kleena, which does shift up where I thought that Hebo was going. Now Hebo slated for mid, and Kleena out of the jungle. The Ravens in the top 3, I was almost going to call it GG immediately, but all of a sudden, there's some question marks for me.
Kind of maybe pulling that one back a little bit, not quite the solidified GG that you might think. But it will be Jingwei and Thor rounding out for the Eldritch Hounds. Now maybe that opens up the question of, does this Vamana go to Ducky over in the solo lane? That's been the primary home of Vamana, though we have seen the flexibility into the jungle, and also Ducky does love playing the Thor, but same with Oathhh. So if you're going up against a Ravens team like this, you may have a preference on which of these two you would rather see piloting for Oathhh.
For Oathhh, I think it's the Thor. I just feel like Thor has so much more impact on map, and it's not restricted by itemization nearly as much. I hate seeing Vamana jungle before Bladed Boomerang. After Bladed Boomerang, I don't mind it. You know, it operates very well. It's able to get in that back line, has consistent damage output, but before it just feels like it can't really do anything, whereas Thor, I mean, just at level 3, is immediately capable of making things happen as an immediate playmaker, and that's how the Eldritch Hounds have played in the past. They usually allow Oathhh to be the driving force of this team and decide where the action happens, and it feels like Thor a little bit more so capable of doing that.
Well, did just get word in from production. It is going to be Thor jungle for Oathhh this time around, so Vamana will be going over to Ducky in the solo lane. So for the Highland Ravens, I mean, we kind of understand at least the general flow of the gameplay for here. You have an Aphrodite get to late game attached to a Hebo. Now you can dive into the back line, have a way to get out of there. The Eldritch Hounds, what tools they have in their arsenal to try and deal with this kind of a combo, to try and fight the potentially unkillable Hercules and it's Hebo and Aphro who is able to dive so far back.
You could catch him early. Don't let him get to that point. That's always a great option. Jumping on Hebo in the early game is just pretty good in general. Doesn't matter where it is, be it mid or jungle. And Thor, I think, a very good god for doing that in particular. Otherwise, in the absolute latest portions of the game, I mean, you've got standard burn potential from the Merlin, but as for securing kills, I think that's where they're going to struggle. If the Eldritch Hounds take this the absolute latest, fighting through all that healing, it's going to be tough.
Hounds hoping they can win this one out early. Highland Ravens trying to win this one through the late. Who's going to come out on top? Let's jump into game number 1.
One I'm excited for, Charlie, but I shared some sentiments. I was talking to you about the picks and bans. Similar to Mifflin, I saw the top 3, and when I saw the Jingwei locked in, I looked at you and I said, so surely this is just Marty, Ram, and you're done. You send Marty mid, Ram to the duo, you Hebo jungle, and you're crested. Instead, we got Kleena, Xbalanque, which...
Of course. Which is what I said.
Naturally, yeah.
Yeah,
and
you
that was
said
really
that,
weird that you had said that.
And I said Kleena, Xbalanque, of course, and it's so weird that it came true. But in reality, this is the Ravens.
No, that was real. I was there.
Yeah, this is the Ravens. BaRRa, I think, is always... I feel like BaRRa's always letting the intrusive thoughts win, you know? It's like, hey, yeah, Rama's up, but you want to play Xbalanque, don't you, bud? And he's like, all right, today I let them win. Today I lock in the X-Ball. Might not be the best pick, or maybe it is. We haven't seen it. Could be a bit of a surprise here, and I'm excited for it. But I feel like BaRRa's always 1 to 2 steps away from playing Apollo and X-Ball at any given Sunday. You know, it's just one of those things where if he can find a reason to lock him in, he's going to do so. And Jingwei was unavailable, so he had to. His hand was forced, if anything.
I want to see Apollo.
Might come next.
It's been a while.
I would not be surprised if it came next. Not because it's good or it provides global presence or because of its damage, because BaRRa wants to do it, and he'll do it.
Sometimes it's just all you need. There's always been conversations, at least, you know, you go back, like Artemis, Cupid, Xbalanque tend to be 3 that always hold hands together. When one jumps into the meta, the others soon follow up. It just depends on where they are in their own personal balance, in their own lives, Trelly, and on their own journey. Right now, the journey for BaRRa is to play Xbalanque. I was thinking if we were going to see something off kilter from him, it was going to be Hachi, because that's just something that he tends to go to in some of these moments anyway.
That is another one.
The Hachi, if I'm remembering my patch notes correctly, from Thursday, might be spending some time with Tyr in the sun here soon, so maybe BaRRa's letting that one cook for a little bit longer. I'm really excited, though, to see how this one shakes out. Very large amount of pressure, I think, on this set, right? Trying to get to first, a trip straight to Masters instead of having to go through the playoffs. Playoffs, for anyone who's wondering, is mainly seeding, right? The 6 teams that don't make it into the Masters immediately are going to then play through, what's it called, every single other SPL team to try and get seeded for Masters. Masters, at that point, Trelly is bringing in some of the SCC teams, and if you get last suddenly at Masters, you've got to deal with those guys in the SCC, and then on top of that, you'll be playing either the Warriors or whoever gets first in the Order division. So suddenly it becomes a lot bigger to try and win out here, seed better during that tournament, or if the ideal world for either of these teams win here on out, supplant first seed and just get their trip directly to, theoretically have a quote-unquote, let's call it, easier bracket, right? It's sometimes never works out that way.
It's never that simple, unfortunately.
And given what we've seen this phase, I think that still holds true. The big question I have for you, though, is around these, I mean, we haven't seen too much in terms of gameplay, so I guess drafts. And I'm going to look at the duo lane, because we've talked a lot about the Xbalanque. The Aphrodite that goes alongside it, we had talked about it the other day. I'd have to double-check the win count. It was 5 at the time. Didn't get much higher that day. But 2 of those 5 were the Warriors. 2 of those 5 at the time were the Ravens, and they had done it the day before. Also, one of their losses had been the Ravens that day as well. How do you feel about Hurry on this Afro and I guess this duo lane in general?
First of all, I love that Hurriwind's name gets abbreviated to Hurry, because it made me think that you really wanted me to answer fast.
Yeah.
You're like, how do you think about Hurry? And I'm like,
how do you think about Hurry?
I'm like, I don't know, it's good, it's fine, it's whatever. But in this case, you got a Hebo, you got a Xbalanque, and of course the Kalina, all potential to just win a team fight handily with some immunity in the backline, with some extra sustain. So those are all good things. That's always been my bar. You know, if you're picking Aphrodite, you have to be kissing to something that can just win you a team fight. You're not kissing just to say, oh, we've got a Merlin, you know, and that's good. Merlin can certainly win you a team fight, but it's not that hard carry style of play. One ability is just going to absolutely destroy the enemy team like a Crushing Wave can do, or like the enhanced auto attacks that BaRRaCCuDDa has. Those are the sort of things you need to look for. So it fits into the draft just fine if you can keep Hurriwind alive, and of course he's not the forefront of the fight. And the biggest concern, if Hurry is not the only one with initiation, which of course Haddix will provide in spades, with the Hercules combo.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen it time and time again. You pop your regrowth, you zoom up, you look for someone to throw back to your team, and then you start the fight that way.
Now, Ducky did impress us the other day. He got some very interesting first bloods. And so I think the Hounds can't be counted out. That being said, if I'm going to trust any player on any god, I think Haddix on Hercules in a meta like this, that puts my mind at ease. And I think for Ravens fans out there, it should probably put your mind at ease. It is just, I mean, you get a mechanically talented player like Haddix onto a god that has that execution threshold. It feels like it should be good. Quig gonna have his dashes, and that's actually gonna be helpful there. Otherwise, was maybe looking at the potential kill for BaRRaCCuDDa. First blood could have happened. The other aspect, since we're over here again, Trelly, about the Xbalanque I'm always a big fan of, is the ult. And less so because of the ult and what it provides, although it is the fun moment of comms where you just say, I can't see, I can't see, I can't
Yep.
see. All of your teammates absolutely love that, by the way. But the big one, BaRRa gets an assist for every single one of those. So if his team is getting active and he's ulting with them, he's getting active.
And it can also help out just in ganks. You know, even if you don't care about the assist, in this case, hey, let's gank over in right lane. Oathhh goes up at the sky. You say, hey, when he lands, I'm gonna shut the lights off. He's gonna have no idea what's going on. That's sort of the idea. One thing that I always love, as you said, is that it closes the comms, but you always...
Without fail, by the way, I do that to my friends every single time.
If
I get flashbanged in a game, if it's a Xbalanque ult, no
Yep.
matter what I'm playing, I can't see is the first thing that comes out of my mouth.
I usually type enemy ultimate down, and my team's like, yeah, we know. We all got
all
ulted.
know.
Like, we're all very well aware that the Xbalanque is ulted. But you gotta let them know.
That's
just
better.
Yep.
I like that so much more.
Because I usually die when it happens. You know, you die, the enemy ults, and you're just like, X-Ball ult, and they're like, we know, bud. Like, don't worry. It was called out to us as well.
I just imagine you hitting like VBA, enemy ultimate down, immediately into X-Ball ult. Maybe Terra ult is what they're getting calmed right now. Hurry, one more auto. That's all you need, Coast. Able to pick it up. And just before the Undying Love can really make a difference.
Didn't have them on it. He really wanted to use and an ult over to BaRRa Oathhh. Wanted to just because. I'm guessing was charging it up and decided to let it fly. Doesn't pull the beads, but either way, Hurry could not get that immunity off. The shell was not enough. And he goes down for first blood. And a terrible member of the Hounds to give it to, by the way. Coast can do a lot with a little bit of a lead. He's going to finish those dev gauntlets a little bit earlier. He's going to get them stacked up first. He might be able to go back to base, fly in towards a Pyromancer,
Yeah.
all of those things. I would say the only one worse is Oathhh, right? The Thor can do the same thing, but just faster with Anvil of Dawn. But both terrible members of the Hounds to let get ahead, let to start getting that farm rolling.
Maybe even more beneficial than that Oathhh was late, right? Doesn't get the assist or anything, so it's still actually a small lead for Scream. On the cleanup. So Scream has been attending the Sino School of Thought. Whatever that's going to mean for this game. And for the Ravens fans watching, we'll find out. BaRRa, unfortunately, the Bastion eats quite a few of those poison darts. Branching Bolus, still going to get some good damage out there, though.
Scream is definitely maxing his dash. I mean, there's no way that's clearing a blue buff. Unless he put, yeah, look at all of his points in the 3. And that's something you can do if you're worried about getting stunned out. But just remember, you are using your escape to engage. Your biggest form of damage is now into that dash. We'll see if it ends up A, hurting him, or B, just helping him entirely. Because you're like, hey, I stunned out the Scream. He doesn't have that much damage anymore. And I also did mean the first ability, not his literal Scream, not his name. And in this case, you think you're going to win the fight because of that. And no, his dash is going to absolutely chunk. So I'm curious how the ganks go. Because I noticed he started Aegis, right? And that's something you don't usually see against a Thor. There's 100 to 0 potential pretty much right at level 5 for Oathhh here with an Anvil of Dawn. But I guess Scream is thinking, A, I'm going to avoid the Thor, and B, I can just go into the wall. You know, if I know Thor's coming, I'm going to hide inside the wall, not get poked out, that sort of thing.
Well, so far he's been playing carefully. You'll get to see some of that now. Damage onto BennyQ. It's just a little bit of poke before the flicker comes out. No relics down at this point. Fighting has been pretty sparse outside of that engage in the duo lane, which admittedly was a low mana hurry. Feels like it was the best opportunity to get something going for Quig and Coast. Instead, junglers haven't been showing up too much to right. Maybe Scream's going to change a little bit of that. Ducky, though, has a good disengage, and so Scream's just here to steal farm.
So far, but where? I was going to say, is Oathhh going to the sky is the question, because Ducky was posturing as if he wanted to go in here. Small fight over the totem, and Oathhh is going to go up to the sky. Are you looking for Haddix is the question. Under
Finds
tower?
him and gets the stun. No beads or anything in retaliation. Just uses the ult. Knockback on the Ducky.
Here comes Quig.
And that's going to be the Colossal Fury. Haddix pushes Quig under the tower. Him and Scream, though, fall back. 2 ults. Call it 3 because of Terra. All rotate over. And neither Haddix nor Scream are below half health.
Nope. I'm surprised, number 1, about Oathhh even ulting. I can see why Quig came over. Just want to try and tip the scales in their favor, but Terra didn't provide too much damage, and the tower essentially did its job. Made sure that that dive did not continue, despite the fact that the Eldritch Hounds have been looking for aggression and finding that first blood, and or even looking for ganks over and right. Hasn't really netted much since that original kill over on the Hurriwind and duo lane. Build-wise, though, switching it up. I mean, BennyQ going the Conduit Gem, Chronos Pendant Star, which I'm a big fan of. The Conduit Gem is going to help your early clear, especially when you're trying to stay as far away from a Hebo as possible. You don't want to stick in lane and get knocked up into a crushing wave. But Ven just going with the tried and true Spear of Deso, Santa time start. Going to get plenty of CDR once that Rod of Tahuti gets finished up. You're essentially going to be one-shotting. I mean, that's pretty much the qualification. You find someone without protections built, you knock them up, Water Hands, ult, and that combo could work on 3 members of the Hounds at present time. And once you get that real damage online, it can work on just about anyone.
It only takes a little bit of extra effort from Vin to go from kind of killing machine to absolute killing machine. Although we did see earlier, sorry to throw you under the bus, Twig, but that Hebo can be stopped, right? He can definitely have a very controlling game on the other side. BaRRa.
It's usually Coast with the taunts. This time it was BaRRa gave a little chuckle.
He's also in the fun spot. You know, Charlie, we keep going back to Xbalanque. And maybe it's just because he's the freshest god that we haven't gotten to see too much. That we've, one game so far this phase? Another thing you have to remember, especially for Coast and moments like that, falls back onto the tier 1, goes pretty far. You get that attack speed range on his ult, which is always, like, it's so much fun when you're playing him.
Yeah.
It's the most irritating thing in the world when you're against him. When you think you're finally escaped, you see his ult. Now not only can you not see, suddenly he's smacking you again. And so definitely something like, you know, Coast under tower, if trades are going BaRRa's way, has to be a little more careful and cognizant about.
Yep, the bolus can bounce off the tower as well. There's a few ways you can try and dive
Man,
for that 1v1.
The extra range with a bolus and you get a kill on that, like, I'm salty for you at that point.
And I think that's why Coast ran the whole way back. But now Coast is like, hey, I backed. What's up, bro? Now I've got
BaRRa's laughing, bro.
Because BaRRa's like, well, now you got Exy, but Oathhh to the sky. Does he find the ultimate on the Scream is the question. Nope. I was going to say, I really wanted to know if he was going to go in there because it just didn't seem like a good opportunity. Maybe Ducky was like, yeah, you got this, man. You go for Anvil of Dawn. We can fight. Decides not to use it. But it's the Eldritch Hounds heading over to the Fury. No, there's no tanks here. This is just the carries bouncing back and forth. This is just Coast and BennyQ. BaRRa, he's going to step up here.
Should spot this out. Knock up. Good from the Jingwei. BaRRa walked right over a ward. Gold Fury spotted out. There's going to be the ult. Fury leashed.
They can grab it.
Knock up from Vin is going to be there. Gold Fury still going. Ravens take that one away, and they might even find something afterward. Hurry gets credit for a kill onto Oathhh, and the chase is on. Benny, half health, knock up, good. Vin just needs something to close the gap, and there is the Atlas of the Yellow River to get him there. Coast gets to back off, but it's 2 kills and a Fury for the Ravens.
Yeah, what a interesting call there. I mean, I guess because so much presence was in right lane, it seemed free. I mean, you saw Quig on the right side of the map. You know that failed gank just came through. So why not, right? BennyQ and Coast just bounce the Fury back and forth because BaRRa knows Coast has been playing very aggressive. If he's not 1v1ing me right now, then where is he? He's over on the Fury, walks up and decides to have that one. And of course, if Venenu's there with Crushing Wave as confirmation, that's going to be an easy pull. And not the Pyromancer unless Quig goes for the steal. And he does, but he won't be able to grab it. Both objectives going in favor of the Highland Ravens off of an overly aggressive pull there from the Eldritch Hounds. They had the vision, they had the knowledge, but BaRRa and Ven, they sniffed it out.
It's that moment when Vin knocks up. I believe it was Coast at the time. Maybe it was Benny the first time. Either way, it was the creation of space and the Fury leashed at half, right? That's always the danger zone is when you drop it, how much health does it have left, and who is nearby? Because you dropped it as 2 carries to 2 carries. And one of them, while Merlin does a lot of burn, maybe you think about that late game. Hebo, you had mentioned it. Once he had the rod finished, he's going to have a lot of damage online. Luckily for the Hounds, they're still getting active on the map. Purple buff invade and left gives them a little bit. Charlie, what if I told you we were just shy of 3,000 gold, though?
What if I told you Haddix had that 3,000 gold in his hand right now?
Oh my god.
That's the gold lead, and he's about to spend all of it. I was wondering, because I was like, there's no way that Haddix is this far behind. And I was like, oh, he's holding on to 3K? All right, that makes sense then. And that's pretty much the difference maker. He's able to finish up that contagion. I want to see this Hercules start making some rotations. You talked about how confident you are about Haddix on Hercules. What about Ducky on Vamana?
To answer your question right now, not feeling it, but that might be because of Venenu's damage that we just saw. Unfortunately for Ducky, that's a great rotation for Ravens here. They even use the Runic Bomb super early, but they're going to siege this Tier 1 tower in right for it, get a little space, a little extra zone. And Charlie, when there's no neutral objectives left to go for it, you got to figure out somewhere to get aggressive. The Ravens have done exactly that. Unfortunately, it's costing them some pressure elsewhere. Tier 1 tower in mid, going to get taken in trade. So you go tower for tower. Still just about 3,000 gold in favor of the Ravens. That experience was insane, though. I mean, you've got 2 levels in support, 2 levels in the jungle. Everybody else looks like they're even. It's about 4,000 experience.
Yeah, it starts that up, especially when you can't keep up with the farm game here of the Highland Ravens. BaRRaCCuDDa has been sitting under tower a fair bit. I mean, it's been a lot of back and forth here between Coast and BaRRa. But besides that, everyone else has just been zooming around the map looking for farm. BaRRa's just been largely stuck in his own lane. But, you know, you set it out. Ben's using the Atlas a little over for the movement speed, getting kissed from Hurriwind is giving that movement speed as well. They're trying to get around to find ganks and look for objectives. Pyromancer's down, but the Primal Fury should be spawning in here. And it looks like diving the Tier 1 towers, the call for the Ravens. Might have been off a little bit more than they could chew. And now Hurriwind's in a bit of trouble.
Damage was pretty good onto Benny, even though it missed. Vin was the one leading the way. Cooldowns should be back up for the Hebo, but the Ravens, like you said, maybe recognize things didn't go the way they wanted to, bit off more than they can chew. They pull back ever so slightly, losing their Tier 1 in right as well. A lot of their safe havens, a lot of the I would just say where the line of scrimmage is on the map has been pushed back in favor of the Hounds just because the towers have been stripped away. Makes invades a little easier. But invades doesn't get the job done. Furies do. That seems to be where the Ravens' eyes are at. Zone coming out from Haddix. The team's going to step forward. Primal Fury pulled.
Better burst, better burn.
There does not seem to be a single Hound in sight.
Nope. And that's the benefit of Cleana, and of course the benefit of a Hebo. You've got the burn, you've got the burst. That one goes down for free. And there was no chance of pulling the Fire Giant, but BaRRaCCuDDa goes back to base and flies over. He's trying to get to the Pyromancer in time. And the Ravens are already here. I mean, this might just be done before they step up. It's going to go down quickly. It's up to Quig to go in for the steal once again. And they are going to reset, though.
It gets dropped. Picked up again. Dropped. Picked up again. And now Ducky gets pushed into him. The damage. Oh, my God. From the Ravens, Venenu, along with BaRRa, just shred through that health bar. Pyromancer has just been getting bullied. And unfortunately, it gets dropped one more time because the Ravens, now they're looking for a little extra. Quig's low. Coast forced to ult. Benny knocked up, pushed back. And Scream doing exactly that in mid. Pyromancer pulled one more time. Quig's low, but so is Vin. Vin goes for the ult on the Coast. Coast uses the Aegis and can't get the kill. Venenu gets to walk out of there. Baits Coast in for his team. BaRRa, now low health, tries to stay alive. It's him versus Oathhh. Oathhh uses the Aegis.
He's alive!
The tankiness. Oh my God, the plays from the Ravens. They keep their carries alive, and they're eating the Hounds. They finally, Trelly, are going to get the Pyromancer, and they get 3 more kills to boot.
That's insane. Number one, that Ven lives. I thought the Fire Giant was just going to hit him out of Pressable. Just one.
Just sheer malice.
Yeah, he's like, you know what? I'm not allowed to hit you until you aggro on me, but I really want to. And then in this case, Hurriwind was able to help keep BaRRa alive. The Aegis comes through, and Oathhh can't find the one auto attack. Beautiful Aegis, by the way, for that Berserker's Barrage. And 2 low health targets, unfortunately, nets you no gold, especially when you lose the Pyro. Hurriwind was able to pick up the Runic Bomb. And the Highland Ravens are making out like bandits. They got everything they wanted there. I mean, I'm not going to say free. They used abilities and relics, but no deaths.
No deaths.
Yeah.
Just no deaths. It's so wild. First blood, by the way, went to the Hounds. Since then, it's 7 unanswered kills, 3 of which are on Venenu. 5,000 gold, 7,500 experience. Shelly. I mean, look, yeah, net worth charts, they're sitting up at the top and by a large margin. In fact, it's only 300 gold separating the Hercules and the Vamana. Most of it is elsewhere, but you're getting a lot of it in mid. Vin, this Hebo pick. Man, at the beginning, I was thinking, okay, it's weird that it's not going to the jungle, but we'll see what we get. I'm sold. 3-0 and 2. It's got exactly what they need.
And it's only going to get better,
Oh my God.
by the way. It only gets better. Evo does not fall off. His damage will continue to skyrocket. Ducky, only one here to try and go for a steal. He's forced into the ult defensively. Yeah, this has got to be done, right? There's no one stepping up towards FG. At least Coast grabs a tier 2 over on left. But we're 18 minutes in, and the Highland Ravens are in the driver's seat. They're trying to get as much farm as they can. Maybe Haddix defends, but no, he's not able to teleport in time. So Coast does grab the tier 2 tower. BennyQ able to strip away a speed buff. But I'm thinking the most important thing as of now for the Eldritch Hounds is getting Oathhh a little bit more damage. Because we've seen in most cases, games like this, Thor just needs to be a glass cannon, needs to hit a massive ultimate in the backline. Maybe he dies, but he opens up doors for his team. That is Oathh's best shot at trying to create an opening here for his squad, because he's not going to win a 1v1. And Screammmmm just exited the wall. 4 hounds waiting around the corner. He can't go back in for a couple seconds. It looks like he's not going to walk up and get baited, though. Smart jungler, he's going to stay back.
You had mentioned it, tier 2 on left, taken by the Hounds. Unfortunately, their towers are the ones that are falling a little bit easier right now. Fire Giant still on the Ravens for another 2 minutes, and the power play is paying dividends. Tier 1 in left, knocked down. Tier 2 in left follows quickly thereafter. Maybe some invades, maybe the Oni Fury, maybe a mid push in the future for him. But Trelly, control, control, control is what the name of the game is. 6,000 gold, and it's only going to get a little wider as the Ravens take this gap and just push it as far as they can.
That's what they're going for. Interestingly enough, BaRRa opts to not build Xe at all. I was thinking he was going to go towards it later, just Kins into the Executioner, but he actually just went the Kin size into the Dominance and then said, hey, I'm going to get tier 2 Odibo into Titan's Bane. Doesn't care about shredding for his team. I suppose because it's just Screammmmm and Haddix and they've been fighting with each other. And Xbal does just have those enhanced auto attacks. Getting more of them, always going to be a good idea. So I do like the tier 2 Odibo strat of just, hey, I've got Kins, I get more Kins procs if I build that attack speed. But it seems like the Eldritch Hounds are pushing up left. I'm wondering if they're going to go for a Phoenix if they're just here to push in waves. BaRRaCCuDDa dashes in. It looks like they're trying to find some form of regression here. Can Screammmmm hold this down? He should be able to. Just ulting the wave should be enough just to make sure this Phoenix doesn't drop.
First level 20 in the game, by the way, for Screammmmm. As everyone else is chasing that mark. And like you said, able to get things done, at least in terms of defense. Gets out of a sticky situation safely. And lets his team have plenty of room to accomplish a lot else. They get aggressive onto the tier 2. And in right lane, that one goes down. Only one tower left standing for the Hounds, and it's the tier 2 in mid. Pyromancer started up by the Ravens. And Trelly, despite the fact that the last one came with a lot of fanfare, this one goes very quietly. No Hounds in sight.
Yeah, I mean, so look at BaRRa's build real quick, right? It seems like he's relatively close to full build. You know, he's closing in on it. Hold that thought for a second. Oathhh forced to beads. It's caught out in the jungle. Actually had to beads and Aegis. Both relics down. Tier 2 towers being grabbed. And it looks like that should be the end of the Highland Ravens push on their first Fire Giant. But next one will be up here shortly. I want to see if the Eldritch Hounds even feels if they can step forward, right? That they have some semi-global presence. Oathhh could go in for the steal, but Ven has the uncontested burst. And so long as he's able to time Crushing Wave correctly, that should be an easy confirmation, but maybe Quig's in a bit of trouble here.
That sentence, easier said than done from what we've learned, right?
Yep.
Crushing Wave over the last couple of days has not been as easy and on point as some of these others. Hurry is staying kissed to Ven, though, when given the opportunity. Fire Giant going to be back in about 10 seconds. Oathhh pushed up a little on left. Coast is over here. And Charlie, based on just that information alone, I'm going to assume the Hounds are not thinking of fighting for this FG.
Yep, that does seem like a relative tame decision to make at this point. You don't really have many avenues to try and get active unless you're underneath that Phoenix. But I'm just wondering, when do they make their stop? Because usually it's for EFG. But now you're going to have to defend your Phoenix for sure. The Highland Ravens are not going to sit by for this whole Fire Giant push and not look towards the Phoenix. I mean, Screammmmm is full build. Upgrade starter, Heartseeker, he is ready. This Kleena is on point, whereas Oathhh can't pay for that farm. He needs to upgrade his starter and get a full nother item. I'm thinking Scream can just push mid and go relatively uncontested, hide in the wall, still make it over to left if he would like to. So the Highland Ravens could push this one in nice and slow, as long as they make sure Hurriwind doesn't get chain CC'd. I think that's the biggest issue with these Aphrodites. They don't get as tanky as everyone else as quick because their support, they have a little bit less farm, and they usually don't have beats. So if the CC chain comes on to Hurriwind and he's forced ult early, that could be a good look here for the Eldritch Hounds and their defense. But so far, it does seem like it's going to be a 3-2 split, unless Scream just wants to chill over here. Yeah, 4-1, and left side Phoenix is the target.
You have to imagine Haddix stepping up is striking fear in the Hounds. All it takes is one good knock-up, pull back. Suddenly it falls apart. Not quite getting what they want. BennyQ, though, super low. Fire Giant here for another minute 40 on the power play for the Ravens. Scream hanging out in the wall. Knock-up good, but Coast walks out of there. The poke damage in the back is fantastic. Oathhh goes into the air, crashes down onto Scream, goes for the stun, but no, he gets locked out the wall doors. Oh, they almost kill him off. But he gets to walk through with the help of his team. Burns the relics on Scream. Maybe opens up an opportunity, at least a kill opportunity for the Hounds. Left side Phoenix was burned. Mid Phoenix seems to be following Ducky. Colossal Fury tries to get into the back, eating way too much damage in the process. BaRRa gets himself a killing spree with one last auto. Quig, Benny sent back to Fountain. It's still a 4v5. And that's too much for the Ravens. They're going to pull back and just put the pressure on. Two Phoenixes down, single kill, and sometimes Trelly. That's just the setup. And it's been a slow burn, but it's 12,000 gold, and the Ravens in the lead.
Yep, they can do no wrong at the moment unless they stick around. And they look to try and find a fight here. The rest of the Ravens have not left. BennyQ was the target, but it didn't seem like Haddix was going to be able to find a pull, and he can't. But still, running forward is Hurriwind. They want this Merlin. How much damage can they really get towards him? It looks like the call finally is to retreat here. You don't want to get picked before another Fire Giant. So the Highland Ravens aren't going to commit to that fight. They're just going to retreat in this time. But Pyromancer is up. Primal Fury still available. One more Runic Bomb will do it. And you just got to get that right bird. That's the last step here for the Highland Ravens to finish off breaking the base of the Eldritch Hounds. I saw one nice ult from Oathhh that was able to pull both relics off a Scream. Besides that, not too much to write home about for the Eldritch Hounds defense. They sort of just stepped up, got very low, lost Ducky, and that was the end of the defense. It wasn't too much of a stretch that they couldn't really stand here to the might of the Highland Ravens. Especially when you think about the play was to try and get Ducky to kill Ven with Thorns. And Hurriwind said, oh, I got you, bro. I'll just ult right as you ult through him so you take no reflect damage. And BaRRa was the one who cleaned up the kill anyways. Just seems like the Ravens have answers for everything.
It seems, I want to say almost simple, but the timing, as you describe it, is what's so crucial there for the Ravens. Beautiful plays. They get the relics, by the way. That last bit of aggression on a BennyQ. Those are still gone for another minute and a half. So Fire Giant started up. Third of the game, still not enhanced. 8 kills to 1. And now that gold lead is 14,000. We're going to push it even further. 15.6, 15.3. I thought Coast was going to go for the Phoenix. And he does cancel his back, so he's going to get aggressive. Minion wave with him. Has to find something over on left. Nobody's backing from the Ravens. So for Coast, that one's free. The question is, what does his team do without him for a little bit? And the answer is stare down at the Ravens, not having to worry too much because now Coast is here.
Yep. You miss an opportunity to get active while Coast is gone, but it doesn't seem to me like the Ravens are too worried about it. Haddix is taking a lot of damage. This Hercules needs to back up.
Low health bar. Then gets pulled in. Beautiful damage from him. The Phoenix goes down, up to the sky. Goes Oathhh, but it's the Hounds right now. The Ravens, they're surging forward. The Hounds are forced to fall back. The Fountain doing its work. Healing up whoever it can. Quig does die. On the right side, Phoenix does as well. Left side about to respawn. Fire minions clashing around the tier 1 side of the Ravens in duo. Minions in mid helping them out. Well, the Ravens going to go on the revenge tour, knock down left side Phoenix. Mid will respawn shortly after that. So the question for the Ravens right now, Trelly,
They're going for the
can
end.
they go for the end? They're going to try. They step in. They've got the damage to do so. The Hound's got to do something to stop it. They just
That's
don't
gone.
have an answer for it. It's 9-1. And off the back of a single kill onto Quig and just a dominating performance, the Ravens take game 1.
Yep, 5-4. You just walk in, Scream starts to pierce the veil on the Titan, and pretty much everyone just focuses it down. And that's the issue. It wasn't as if it's that easy to end in today's time. We've seen lots of games that could not, with 3 Phoenixes down, could not kill the Titan. It's how much damage could the Eldritch Hounds return? Not much. Haddix got very low, but it was pretty much just the Hercules that was taking that damage. BaRRa and Ven go untouched. Scream's hiding in the wall, so it doesn't matter. And I think Hurriwind still had immunity. It was very difficult to fight into that Highland Ravens composition there for the Hounds, especially when you get off to such a bad start. You lose all these objectives, and you're just scounging for any bit of farm you can find.
Well, sometimes they're just that easy, right? You know, at the beginning of the day, we see a lot of back and forth in the Warriors and the Kings. This goes to show what happens when you just get a dominating lead. And unfortunately for the Hounds, when you can't have any response to it. The Ravens take this one 1-0. We'll see how the Hounds respond right after this.
Game number 1, a dominant performance by the Highland Ravens front to back as they completely walk over the Eldritch Hounds in this first game of the best of 3. If you want to support the Eldritch Hounds or the Highland Ravens or any of our SMITE Pro League teams, you can go over to shop.hi-rezstudios.com/SPL. And thanks to our good friends over at Skulls, providing more jerseys, hoodies, t-shirts, and more for the teams of the SPL. Thank you so much for Skulls for providing that merch for us here in the studio, our players, and our fans at home to make sure that they can show their love for their favorite teams out here in the SMITE Pro League here in Season 10. Remember, some great new jerseys coming around with a couple of new names coming up into the league between the Gladiators, the Ravens, even throwing the Hounds out there. So many great teams that have popped up there and so many great jerseys to do so. And the Highland Ravens, if you're a fan of them, well, they looked really good in game number 1, Mifflin. Every single lane just finding an advantage up in their team fights. Early first bloods, Venenu popping off a 4-0-3 for himself, BaRRaCCuDDa 3-0-6 on the Xbalanque. While we were questionable about the bottom 2 of the draft, as far as draft is concerned in paper, may not have been the most successful. Definitely out on field worked out well for the Ravens.
Yeah, and these are always the hardest games to break down when it's as one-sided as this one was. Things got started early, and they kept going for the Highland Ravens. Objective control certainly there. I feel like there were maybe a few more opportunities for the Hounds to fight back into it, but that last team fight around the Pyromancer when BaRRaCCuDDa lives with sub 100 HP, when everybody lived with sub 100 HP, I should say, really put a stopper, I think, to the aggression that the Hounds were trying to mount. That's when the gold lead started to balloon really out of control. That's crazy. You'd think we planned it. No, this is the exact clip I'm talking about right here. What was that, 50 HP?
Not even.
49 more than you needed, right?
Yeah, I think you even dropped down to single digits there for a brief second before getting a little bit of a heal back up, but then right here at the Titan, when you've just got the man advantage, you can just walk in and pretty much take whatever you please at this point through. I believe it was even at this point that Quig tried to go for a retreat, and he ends up catching himself on his own monolith on the retreat, ends up being part of the reason he goes down there. But with a final score of 9-1, the Highland Ravens just completely destroy the Eldritch Hounds in game number 1. So maybe adaptations for the Eldritch Hounds. I mean, draft composition-wise, didn't really feel like this was a comp that was too bad for the Eldritch Hounds. Just felt like, more than anything, the Highland Ravens got off to a stronger start than the Eldritch Hounds were hoping for.
Yeah, at one point, 4 levels down was Oathhh in the jungle. And when your jungler is 4 levels behind, feels like there's probably ripple-on effects on the rest of the map. If your jungler can't fight, that means any fight that incorporates Scream is just going to be a numbers advantage. And the Ravens exploited that very, very well here. Adaptations in Game 2, I don't think necessarily need to happen in picks and bans. I would argue it's play on field that separates them.
So you maybe still run back the Thor this time for Oathhh. You think it's maybe just a bit of an unfortunate break for him in game number 1? Maybe see him get on something a little bit more that he can get kind of active on a little bit earlier on in the game?
When you're having a bad Thor day, and all the junglers in the chat absolutely understand what I'm talking about right now. Some days you got the Thor, some days you don't have the Thor. I'm not saying Oathhh doesn't have the Thor right now. We didn't get an opportunity to see it, really. But 4 or 5 levels down, maybe we save Thor for tomorrow or you know, a week from now.
Yeah, maybe one of those picks where you have the bad game on it once, especially when you fall this far behind. Just kind of pocket and try something else for themselves. Eldritch Hounds will take first pick this time, though, as we jump into the picks and bans for game number 2. And not going to let Hurriwind pick up this Aphrodite once more. Initially coming in here with a 50% win rate on it, now bumps him back up to, I believe, 60% with the win there for Hurriwind's 5th game on the pick. Now adding a Nox into that same ban column for the Eldritch Hounds, definitely putting a lot of focus towards Hurriwind, and I think they're right to do so. Hurriwind has been a standout for this team for sure in that support role. Definitely made a great name for himself in his first official full year running the SPL as a support, but not his first time, not his first rodeo in the support role. Highland Ravens, they'll ban away the Horse Circuit. Still one more ban for them to go.
So the Eldritch Hounds may be targeting Hurriwind, but they've left one major pick available. Yemoja.
Oh, yeah, Yemoja. Well, look, their first pick. Look, man, I'm thinking of last game. I'm seeing what Hebo did. I'm like, they left Hebo open?
So now the Hounds, assuming the Ravens don't ban the Yemoja themselves, will likely need to take it in first slot if they want to keep it out of the Ravens' hands. I imagine the Ravens happy to snatch that one up, considering how strong Hurriwind's been on this pick. Whole lot of support bans. Still a few available. The Eldritch Hounds in first slot will take the Yemoja for themselves. And Quig is just as good. has been just as good. I don't know if is the correct verbiage there. But certainly capable of playing the Yemoja at a very high level. Does afford you a good deal of pressure, a good deal of sustain as well, and transitions into the mid to late game very, very well. There's not a single portion of a SMITE match where Yemoja feels weak. Levels 1 through 20, she's doing exactly what you need.
So now Yemoja level 1 here for pick number 1, I should say, for the Eldritch Hounds. Highland Ravens, 2 selections to them, and a lot available. Vamana still up. With the Hercules band away, not going to be seeing that one come back through. Guan, if you still want to go for something in the solo lane. Maybe what mages and carries do we see this time around? BaRRaCCuDDa in the 9th pick goes for a Xbalanque, so anyone's guess is as good as mine as to what he might want to play with in this hunter role this time around.
Wouldn't hate seeing a Guan here.
Yeah?
With all the other healers taken off the table, maybe Vamana Guan for the Ravens.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think that's just like a very, I'm just calling out the other top picks, right? I mean, those are just what everybody else has been playing in their first slot, so.
Now what do the Eldritch Hounds get? Let's see if you can guess them ahead.
Oh, man. Well, Hounds, Merlin, probably one of these. The other one could just be a Hunter selection. If they want to run double Hunter, it could be a Marty. If they're not running double Hunter, it's VaporishCoast. A little bit harder to say there. Cern seems like a safe bet.
So Merlin, Cern, we'll see if that ends up being the picks there for the Hounds. But now Vamana Guan, as you mentioned, for the Highland Ravens, gets them a lot of front line. There's one of 2.
Could you imagine?
Biff, if you get this next one, I'm gonna make you guess the whole draft. Right? No, I don't think I could do that to you. But Merlin, a very safe one to go to.
What if it's Ram?
Oh, could be. Coast has really been liking the Ram selection. It's definitely one of his. We'll see. We'll see what he ends up going with here. But I mean, Merlin, I think just a safe guess. It's been a top 2 mage for BennyQ to keep going back to over in this mid lane, so maybe not as surprising.
Darn it!
Thor actually going to be the selection for the Eldritch Hounds, so we'll still see if Cern maybe pops up a little bit later, see if you maybe jump the gun on that pick, but now back over to the Highland Ravens. You get the Thor. Now with the Vamana, at least over in the Ravens, maybe opens up that flexibility for this Thor to possibly go over to Ducky and solo.
Could. Oh, man. I feel like Thor, although good in solo, is just really outshined by Thor out of the jungle. Sorry, that stun locked me. That Ra hover's got to be fake. And if you're playing Ra, why pick it here? You know, it wouldn't happen this quickly. It's not going to get banned, and it's not going to get picked away from you. That could just be 10th overall. They're certainly not locking in Ra. I'm not falling for that.
Hold on, I'm gonna pull up, see if Venenu has. I don't think he has played the Ra yet so far. Has not, at least in this phase, I should say.
You didn't have to do that one that quickly either. Maybe the Ravens did, actually. BaRRaCCuDDa has a really good performance in the last game.
Yeah, I think 306 to end that one out, 100% kill participation.
And he stacked those assists quickly thanks to that global presence.
Yeah, making sure to use that Darkest of Nights for himself. So Xbalanque now for the Ravens and taking some bans over towards VaporishCoast. Ram, the first one for the Highland Ravens, but immediately firing back with some support bans up against the Ravens, says the Hounds. Now with Yemoja taken off the table, the Aphrodite, all the mage supports that we've been seeing, at least Hurriwind go towards. And then a little bit of respect over towards Venenu. That Zeus has been very scary to go up against.
It has been, but when you've got the dive potential of a Thor on your team, and even assuming it's going to the jungle and Oathhh, of course, has a poor performance, I feel like you're still willing to give the Zeus over just because it's a decent matchup for the Thor. Just concerned about that team fight presence. And with Yemoja, it's almost kind of like the OG Odin combo, right? If there's an Odin on the other side, you might lock in Zeus yourself, just create that cage into a no-play zone. What are the Ravens up to, man?
What are they cooking, bro?
Okay, been a while since Geb's been locked in. What matchup here are we looking at in particular? When I see Geb, I almost always assume there's just a Fenrir on the other side. There isn't, though. I mean, if you're not dunking the Geb himself, you'll be able to cleanse the Thor dunk pretty consistently. That makes me think it is Thor solo. These teams are getting crazy in the draft.
They're wild. Thor for solo on Ducky. Cernunnos hovered for the Eldritch Hounds as Susano gets locked in. Yeah, at least got the Cern a little early for the call of it, but
dude, this is such a 2012 draft from the Ravens.
Now, I will say, it's only been 2 games that he's played it, but Venenu does have a 100% win rate on the Zeus so far this season and a 20 KDA on that god. That is not an easy KDA to achieve on such a unsafe god, I guess is the kind of the best way to put it.
Well, he could just play Hebo if he wanted to.
Could.
And then he'd have the Geb for safety?
Why play Hebo? That's boring. You just play Zeus.
Well,
now
Zeus
he
is
can't play
banned,
Zeus.
yeah.
He can't play Zeus. Could just go Ra. He hovered it earlier. I feel like he's
Ra
teasing
would
us,
be
you just gotta play
miserable
it.
right here.
Morgan Le Fay?
You don't want to play Ra into Susano and Thor. That would be awful.
You won't.
Morgan Le Fay, I think better. Actually has a really good matchup into Susano in particular. Susano is very much telegraphed when he's initiating on you. Usually starts it with that third ability. And then you've got the immediate answer of, okay, well, you teleported to me, Dragonflight. Good luck. See you in a couple seconds when you catch back up to me. So I like Morgan Le Fay into the Susano in particular. Doesn't feel great into Thor. Berserker's Barrage essentially immunes the knockup, which gets rid of a good deal of Morgan Le Fay's self-peel potential. But when you've got Geb on your team, I don't think you're going to have to do a lot of self-peeling. I think the peel is essentially hard-baked into the kit here, or into the composition for the Highland Ravens. I don't like how it thematically fits into this Ravens draft, though. Would have loved to just see the straight-up Season 2 Smite draft, but instead, Morgan Le Fay, one of the newer gods, locked in to round it out.
So now with the Highland Ravens, full composition shown with them. You got a pretty hefty front line with Vamana, Guan Yu, Geb to maybe stick a little bit closer to the back, provide that protection for the Xbalanque, for the Morgan Le
Guan
Fay.
jungle? No, it's got to be Vamana jungle.
What if it
But
was?
what if it was?
That gives me like ultimate like
It's
season like
Scream.
that's like season like almost 3 or the DJ Pernicus timeline.
That was season 2.
Of Smite. Was it also season 2?
Yeah, I mean, I was also playing Guan jungle at the time. He just happened to be winning, so people said it was his thing.
He just happened
but,
to be doing good with
I
it.
locked it in first. I didn't win. Okay, so
Let it be known here, Mifflin started the Guan jungle.
That's right.
You walked so DJ Pernicus could run.
yeah, my hands look like this, so his could be soft as he works with a medical degree, and I'm casting Smite.
You are doing that. And Highland Ravens. Oh god, it broke me there. So Highland Ravens. Gotta talk about this front line they've got. The Xbalanque once again for BaRRaCCuDDa. 3-0-6 in game number 1. Maybe looking to hold a little bit of that same here in game 2 for him. Now a Morgan Le Fay to kind of join that backline. And how does that kind of backline peel for each other? I mean, you have the Geb, throw out a Stone Shield, either help this Vamana if he's diving through, maybe help out one of these backliners. But a lot of times we talk about, you know, the backline being able to peel for each other. How does that kind of dynamic work for Xbalanque and Morgan Le Fay?
Morgan Le Fay is pretty self-sufficient in the back line. She should be able to hold her own. Xbalanque, a little bit less so, will likely stack up with Morgan Le Fay, hoping that her CC enough to peel out for the both of them. But the dynamic that Geb used to go through back when he was like the sole frontliner in these OG compositions when we used to see him was, do I want to start the fight? If yes, blink Cataclysm, how do I help my backline? You don't have to do it here. You don't even necessarily need to be an initiator on this Geb. Vamana and Guan Yu will do it, which means the Geb might just hover in the backline for the entirety of the team fight and be that dedicated peel.
We'll have to see if this old school draft from the Highland Ravens can prevail in game number 2. Are the Eldritch Hounds going to bite back? Let's jump right into game number 2.
Game 1 was pretty, I'm going to say lackluster towards the end, right? A lot of kills for the Ravens, not a lot of kills for the Hounds. So Trelly trying to change some things up. And if you blinked, you might think we've reverted in some aspects of this. With the Geb Xbalanque duo lane, it definitely feels like one I haven't seen in years together. Also screams on Vamana in the jungle again. And so, Trelly, I'm just going to let you have at the Ravens draft, man. Whatever you want to talk about, it's all yours, or the assassin in the solo lane for the Hounds. The field is yours.
I appreciate it. The world is my oyster, and Gore was the one who gave it to me. In this case,
shuck oysters? How do you open oysters?
yeah, you shuck them.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's only 2 foods I know that use the verb shuck, and that's corn and oysters.
Yep, and they're both similar. They're not.
Are they?
No, that was the.
I like corn.
Yep. Well, in this case, I like Geb
You like oysters.
and Geb.
And Geb.
Yeah, a lot of people hate him because it's clear as bad, which
Yeah.
is true. You're gonna lose lane, but in this case, if you're up against Yemoja and Cern, maybe you were fearful you lost lane anyway. So you're playing in the back line. You're using that shield to just make Oathhh and Ducky's life absolutely miserable. And a possible invade coming through here. Not going to work out. BaRRaCCuDDa's able to pick that one up. Quig tried. He's going to eat some damage. But it looks like Hurriwind's going to take some good damage as well. The knock-up isn't going to man him out. And Quig gets first blood.
And it's just so well played, but they do have Scream over here. It's going to retaliate. At least once. BaRRa going to get the last auto.
BaRRa wanted Scream to have it, but Scream couldn't finish it.
Scream got stunned. Look, a stun into a beautiful root from Coast. What a first blood. But it's support for support. One going on to the support kill. The other one going to BaRRa. So the Ravens may be feeling happier, question mark, about where that ends up. Trelly, I was going to ask you, though, you were talking about the clear. And I wanted to ask if that was even factoring in. You know, Geb, a lot of changes. For those of you who haven't watched in a while or maybe don't remember every update, especially for Guardians, I'm always on top of those. Geb's clear did get buffed slightly, right? Not a lot. I think it does. It used to trail off as you hit your knock-up. It did 50% damage at max range. Now it only goes down to 75%, so you're still doing a better chunk in terms of the wave. Your ult now has that base damage, right? It's been a while since those changes came through, but made him feel good for a little bit.
Yep.
With the first bloods in mind, and maybe we'll have to hold that thought as Oathhh caught out in the jungle. Scream still chasing, though. Doesn't seem ready to stop. Goes for the knock-up on the Benny. That's going to be the flicker, and that should be the end of this fight. With the first bloods in mind, do those Geb changes from a while ago affect him at all, or were you already factoring those in?
Yeah, I still like him. It's just you're picking Geb not really for the clear because, again, you're going to be under tower. You're going to spend a lot of time right here. It's all for the annoyance of shield, and the shield can be disgusting into characters like Ducky and Oathhh. They count on CC. They count on their CC being able to hit and being able to chain stun, and Geb just stops that. In this case, Hurriwind has Blink, so he's even going for the Blink Cataclysm route, which a lot of these Gebs don't go to. They play more backliner, but Mifflin highlights it well. Scream and Haddix are the initiators. They're going to be going in. You don't need Hurriwind to be the one that's initiating if you know the beats are up or something like that. Hurriwind can be in the back and just peel for his carries. And when you have carries like Venenu and BaRRaCCuDDa that played the way they did in game number 1,
yeah,
just play through them. Let them get online, shield them, make sure that you've got essentially a beads and an extra health shield for them at any given moment. Seems like a smart way to play for me. I've just always been a Geb believer, but every time we have a content day and the duo lane gets to come in, they always tell me how much they hate Geb because you just lose lane. Hurriwind doesn't go to tower. He's got a juke and then Blink. Smart call. Didn't want to get rooted out. And they are going to pick up purple buff, so Hurriwind gets that extra buff, I suppose. BaRRaCCuDDa loses it, but you get the XP, and that's what's important.
Yeah, stunned out literally right as it finishes. And unfortunately, it's just on him. He's going to have to deal with that one. BaRRa may be lacking for a little bit, but like you said, the experience, getting that and getting the camp, the most important. The Blink Cataclysms, I'm really excited for. The one thing that we typically would talk about, you know, Geb, Khepri, I think Afro belongs in that conversation as well. We have a pretty large discussion about mostly defensive Guardians as opposed to aggressive Guardians, right? They're, you know, Geb's not always going to be the one going in. You Blink Cataclysm and then that's your engage. Everything else maybe wants you to fall back. A good roll out into the knock-up maybe can get things going for you. But sometimes they'll play a little more passive. But you are happy to see that when you have moments like that, right? The shield. And you had highlighted that. The hardest thing with the shield sometimes, Charlie, is making sure your carries don't beads when you give them a shield.
Yep.
Just to make sure that you're not double dipping. So maybe that's going to be the toughest aspect. The Vamana jungle up against the Susano, though, to kind of divert attention to elsewhere on the map. We've seen, and for a long time, Vamana jungle, this phase, that was like where it was going. And now it's slowly trickled back into the solo lane to the point where this almost feels weird to see as a combination for Scream.
Yeah, I think you're missing a little bit of that burst, but you're just counting on Ven and BaRRa to cover the majority of your damage. So Scream is just going to be that annoying Colossal Fury in the back line, pop the Wing Shard, and just stomp away probably onto BennyQ or even Quig. Difficult for them to get away from the Vamana, especially if they're slowed. I do think that the Vamana does have that good value if you can get the damage online. It's certainly fine, but look at this fight over here. Hurriwind is getting targeted out, but here comes Scream as well.
Cataclysm Gines 2. They're going to kill off Hurry, but they lose Oathhh in the process. Scream leading the way. Ven is rotated in. Quig's low. BaRRa just needs a couple more autos. That CC immunity for Scream gets him there. Ven has some
need it.
damage and is going to be able to drop it right onto Quig. That's 2 kills for 1 for the Ravens, and luckily for Coast, the tower was there. Otherwise, the Ravens might have kept going. But the Hounds at this point, Trelly, they've doubled their kill count from game 1. They keep the gold even. The Ravens still get the better end of the trade.
They do. I like the rotation from Ben. I was thinking he had an ult, but it looks like still trying to dive. Coaster, the slow is good. The bolo's off the tower?
Oh no, and then the root, the damage onto Scream. He's got the kill. Well, like you said, he's out of there. So Quost turns it around. What a good root. And unfortunately for Scream, just can't run fast enough, man. Sometimes you get caught by those. 1 for 1, everything that was just said moves up only slightly.
Yep. I mean, Coast looks a little bit better, but BaRRaCCuDDa still should get some free pressure over in lane. It looks like he's actually, number 1, sticking around, but number 2, not going back to base. They're just hanging around. I guess he wanted to grab his purple buff. He could have backed, came back, looked towards Bastion, something like that. Hurry. Went for the ult. Wasn't able to find it. Was trying to pull something from
Caught in
Oathhh.
4K.
Yep, that's unfortunate. if we were looking over at solo lane, no one would have known. But we saw, all of us. And unfortunately for Hurriwind, Oathhh was able to slipstream out. Didn't have beads, so could have had some good CC chain if Venenu was able to get by. But didn't land it. Cataclysm missed. And now the engage of the Highland Ravens looks a little bit worse for the time being.
Riptide keeps Hurry hanging around. Oathh is over here. Shield from Hurry used on himself. Oathh commits a lot of his kit to get some poke out there. Vin is rotated in. Hurry going forward. Still no Cataclysm. So it's just going to be the knockback from rollout. And the shield buff their way. River's Rebuke, though. On to Scream. Locks him in. Scream goes for the knock-up immediately. And is finding a little bit of retaliation against the Hounds. Back and forth. Oathh is now under the ire of the Colossal Fury. Lights turned off thanks to BaRRa, and the aggression is there from the Ravens. They kill off Oathh. They force Coast to play defensive deep under the tower. Quig, Coast both have health, and that's where they're going to stay. The Ravens back off. Trelly still pushing down the tower. Might be able to get some pressure here. At the minimum, they're getting the Bastion, but a kill feels good. They get to fall back.
Yeah, you gotta love the cooldown management there from Scream. At the very least, knowing exactly what Oath's cooldowns were. He said, hey, you just use both your movement abilities. You don't have beads, and I've got a slow. Immediately goes in. That Cataclysm is back up. Quig, he's stunned for half an hour, and it looks like Coast will go down too.
It's a double clean for BaRRa. What a setup from Hurry, man. The stun into the double knock-up. BaRRa just hits exactly what he needs to. Straight shots. And that is a 4-0-3 Xbalanque.
And enough taunts to make my eardrums burst, and I love it. Once again, Coast is one of the biggest taunters in the league. He wants to fight you, he wants to bait you in, and the Highland Ravens will take it. Hurriwind's rolling in to go for the Cataclysm there. That wasn't a blink ult, that was a, okay, I'm just going to walk up slowly to you. You're going to see this fish get to a much bigger fish, and eventually I'm going to find the stun and the knockup. And of course, you can count on BaRRa to be there with the follow-up. Immense pressure on the left side of the map. Highland Ravens have everything they want. Oathh is going to go in here. I was going to say, everyone's nearby. The shield is going to stop that aggression. But I want to see some pressure towards the Gold Fury. I don't want to see Scream on the right side of the map anymore. There's no reason. I mean, Haddix can hold his own. He's not going to be getting killed by Ducky anytime soon. There is a free Gold Fury, or at the very least, a bait in towards the Gold Fury that needs to happen sometime. I'd say in the next 2 minutes. You got to play with this lead, and BaRRa's looking real strong.
I'm surprised we haven't seen it yet, especially with Vin. He's been very freely rotating over here. Ducky doesn't have the ult either. Colossal Fury, it's just going to be clicking heads hammer. Gets him far enough. Haddix can't find the stun. That's going to be the disengage. Oathh has come over to this side of the map. They're going to see the wall just a little wide from Ducky. Totem goes the way of the Ravens. BaRRa just bullying Coast when given the opportunity. Those autos hit. And he's standing on the tower line. He has his ult. Like, you know he was thinking about it for a little bit. Just for the damage, or for the extra range. Instead, Trelly, it's the same old story of standing on the tower, taunting a little bit, and just out-clearing your opponent. Level lead there in mid. It's a Cataclysm onto 2. Quig immediately chunked down. Vin
Not enough.
not able to find the kill, so Quig is walking out of this one. Keep your eyes on Scream. He's going into the jungle. Might find them on the loop around. Is caught out by Oathhh. But he's going to dive. No, he cancels it. Typhoon pulled out. And he'll take that. A big win for the jungler on the Ravens. That Gold Fury still sitting there. Still calling out for the Ravens to take it. But Trelly, they keep their lead, even if they haven't picked up any more kills.
Yeah, and they're showing, the Highland Ravens are showing that they want to fight. And I don't think I'm wrong to assume there's a pretty good way to get the Eldritch Hounds to step up to fight you, and they'd start hitting the Gold Fury. They will fight. They will step up and try and defend, or at the very least, you get this massive influx in gold. I mean, Hurriwind wants to blink in. Scream didn't have his blink, and Colossal Fury was still down, so maybe that was what they're waiting for, but it's available now. And Coast is pushed real far up over on left. But it looks like no value there in trying to go for the kill. And I suppose you wait for Haddix to try and make the rotation over. He's currently in lane. And his teleport just got used.
The turn and look.
Just, what are you doing, man? It's a fight for the totem, and it's a fight that Haddix wins. But we're not going to see a fight at the Gold Fury because the Ravens just don't want to make the pull. Puzzling.
Yeah. You had said it. You didn't want to see Scream on right anymore. I'm pretty sure almost exclusively that's where I've seen him since he said it. BaRRa, throwing some poke over there. Hurry's here. Blink up, Cataclysm up. Anytime you see the Geb, a fight could just start. And he might be going deep. No, he's just going to de-ward. Was wondering if he was willing to go for the purple buff. And on top of that, if him and BaRRa wanted to go for the fight. Instead, it's a farm game. Neutral objectives for the Ravens are, in theory, the upcoming target. There's going to be the Cataclysm onto Coast. Immediate aggression from BaRRa, but Oathhh is here and has to play it carefully. Shield only does so much, and he goes for the 1-for-1, and he gets the trade. That's exactly what he needs to look at him. He's clapping. He feels good about that one.
Yep, I mean, he wanted the aggression. Oathhh shows up. He says, all right, I might as well go back in, is able to find that kill. Unfortunately, you do give a massive 5-0 shutdown over to the Eldritch Hounds. And that's going to be a big win. I mean, a trade is a trade. That's fine. But BennyQ does get aggressed upon by Scream. Not going to get dove underneath the tower. And it's actually the Pyromancer that was pinged for a second. This is the time where the Highland Ravens want to make the pull when Ducky's nearby. I was going to say that could be risky. Ducky does have that Anvil of Dawn. It doesn't reach over to the Gold Fury, but it certainly reaches over towards the Pyromancer. So they're going to drop that instead of going in for the pull. And it seems like just wait for BaRRa to spawn back in and go back to farming. A very slow-paced early game, and the Eldritch Hounds aren't pushing their lead because they don't have one. The Highland Ravens are not pushing their lead at all.
Yeah, nothing too crazy. In fact, it feels like it was bigger a second ago. All of a sudden, you're looking at 300 gold separating these teams. Absolutely insane. The Hounds have been able to fight back into this, and a lot of that is that kill onto BaRRa. Oathhh playing aggressive around the Pyromancer. Ravens pulled it, dropped it, pulled it again. The question is, how well can they hold on to it? Ducky sees it, spots it out. Might go for the range steal with the hammer. Haddix going for the zone, goes for the stun, and it's just enough to ensure the Pyromancer there for the Ravens. Forces Ducky to fall back. River's Rebuke used around BaRRa. BaRRa just walks around the wall and gets out of there no problem with the dash.
Yep. BaRRa said, hey, you blocked me off one way, but there is no one on your team that can threaten me. And it looks like Quig once again is the target. Can't get into the Riptide, and Scream able to confirm that one as BennyQ gets chunked just by proxy, just for standing near the kill the Highland Ravens were after. They finally find their opening. A pick on a Quig and a BennyQ going back to base. But not a pull? Yeah, they're not. They're just going to head back to base themselves. And it's actually BaporishCoast who's going to walk forward, try to take the 1v1 versus BaRRa, and is going to attempt to steal the buff. BaRRa might get baited in here, though. Here comes Oathhh.
Oathhh here. No dash for BaRRa. That's as easy as it comes. Served on a silver platter, baited out by Coast. And he's not clapping this time. Still laughing, though.
He knows he got baited.
That's just the kind of guy BaRRa is.
That was an ego play. That was, you're going to try to take my purple after I dominated you in lane? And Coach said, no, but he is. And here comes Oathhh, blinks over the wall. And that's an easy kill. Both relics available. BaRRa knew not to use them. And he's going to go down. But the Eldritch Hounds don't seem like they have any opportunity to go for a pull themselves. I'm amazed that this Gold Fury has went untouched. Just because Ducky, of course, yeah, that's what you're afraid of. You don't want to pull a Gold Fury in the eyes of Thor, but Ducky has not left lane. He has been there the entire time. He hasn't upgraded his teleport. There's no way he can just teleport behind you. I really don't know what the Highland Ravens were waiting for, but look at the XP difference. Oathhh is 2 levels up on Scream now.
Vamana, you'd called it. He spent a lot of time on right, Trelly. Instead of maybe playing through the duo lane, that lead BaRRa had, yeah, 5-2-4, still looks real good. He's the same level as Coast.
Same build, too. Well,
Gold.
Itemization-wise.
Yeah, and admittedly, gold doesn't really change too much. So this Fury has a lot of weight. Remember, it scales up. Scream goes for the knock-up onto Benny, gets some extra damage, forces him to fall back. Doesn't TKO him. Scream might be going for a little more. Ducky up into the skies. Scream is deep. Ducky comes crashing down, misses Venenu. And now it looks like the Morgan Le Fay who might be finding a fight. Separated are the Ravens, but they're pulling the Hounds apart. Oathhh is deep. Ghost rejoins his team, and now the jungler isolated alone. They know their target. They're going for him, Typhoon. It's only going to knock up one. The rest are here for the kill. And they might invest a lot into it, but they're going to take Oathhh down now, turning. Looking for the fight. Ducky gets a lot, and what a beautiful ult from Quig. Forces Scream into the Colossal Fury. Walks through. Continues his path away. Low health bar for the jungler on the Ravens. Slows this fight down. Trelly, it feels like it should just fade away, but Ducky keeping just enough presence, just enough pressure. Between him and Coast, you never know what can happen.
Yep, chasing down. Not able to find a wall, and Scream was able to return in this fight. But now it's the Ravens stepping forward again, trying to see if Quig is going to be able to put himself out. Haddix has Cavalry Charge. That Guan Yu ultimate is back up. And it doesn't seem like the pull is what they're after. They're trying to find a fight. Ducky hammered. Does he have the Anvil of Dawn to get out? Easy peasy. This really seems like go for the Gold Fury call now.
How many times do you say, what, that's a third? So third time's the charm? Shield buff. You know, Trelly, it's kind of like a Gold Fury in here by Scream just getting decimated in mid. 2v1. And Oathhh and Benny have the damage. They take care of the jungler. And what could have been a Gold Fury pull, instead, the Ravens now find themselves 300 gold down. Kills still read 10-6.
Yep. All I can say is, but why, though?
But why, though?
Why was Scream there? The rest of the team's on left. The Gold Fury looked as free as ever. Ducky's ultimate was down. Now it's a 50-50. BaRRa goes for the ult, turns off the lights.
Oh my God,
they
they
steal
get
it away!
They take it away. What a play from the Ravens. BaRRa turns off the lights, and what is it, Trelly? It's an auto attack from the Xbalanque to secure things. And you know what? Sometimes you fumble into the right play, and that's pretty much where the Ravens find themselves. Pyromancer's up. Maybe there's going to be pressure over here. Ducky gets a wall over the wall. Onto Venenu. Stuns him. Well, that's going to be theoretically all she wrote. It feels like the Ravens have been looking for a fight for the last 6 minutes, and they've been fighting for the last 4.
Yep. And in this case, Pyromancer finally started up. Then, in the River's Rebuke, doesn't seem to be in immediate danger because of the ultimate. It's actually Venu's trying to turn this fight. Get some good damage onto Quig. And now Scream is around. Notice, Scream didn't go for beads in that slot. He actually picked up a Thorns on that back. And Ducky, he's going into the sky here.
Oathhh cataclysmed out, health bar low. Ducky came landing down, but it was waiting. And he's got 3 surrounding him. Will hammer over the wall, gets him out. Now, that's been something the Hounds are great at here. Disengage from the Ravens. They've been looking for fights. They've been trying to force you into them. And they've been doing a good job of it. Unfortunately for the Hounds, even their wins have been losses. 2 Pyromancers to the Ravens, the second one just falling, that Fury earlier. And it's still 10-6, but Trelly, the gold, finally back in favor of the Ravens. And their aggression starting to pay off.
So far, that has been the call. No objectives to look for in the meantime, so back to farming they go. And I still think the Eldritch Hounds have plenty of room to be able to fight, especially if you find a pull on Event, the shield from Hurriwind, enough to keep him alive. And no relics were available. That was a great call for Oathhh to try and find that pick, but whenever the Geb's nearby, a great call turns into a not so great call. The cleanse, the health shield, enough to make sure that Ven gets to live to see another day.
That shield, pesky, pesky, pesky. Ult back available as well. Cataclysms have been on point from Hurry.
Yep.
I have to give him a lot of credit.
Well, he missed that one.
He did miss that one.
And we got to roast him for that, and then we can praise the others.
He has made up for it by hitting so many multi-man Cataclysms. The last one was just on to Oathhh, though. So maybe a little bit of an early trigger finger. But still, one target's better than the none from earlier in the game, right? And Blink's coming up in about 8 seconds. So he has those options. Charlie, I'm going to be honest with you. Pace of game, especially in moments like this, it can be difficult because it's pretty difficult to determine where the Ravens are going. I mean, several times where we thought surely this is going to be a Gold Fury has been just back and get camps or back to the base, things like that. Now you get a Cataclysm again onto Oathhh. He's going to get chunked halfway down, teleports away. And that's enough. Just some mistiming there for Hurry. And do you like this, going for the fights in the jungle, looking for picks still, or would you rather them maybe play more on the map?
I don't hate this just because Oathh's beads were down, and that tells me Hurry was hunting. He's like, if we see Susano, follow me, because I'm blinking. Unfortunately, the rest of the team doesn't have blink. They can't follow you if you go in for a blink Cataclysm. There was no follow-up. It was just Hurry's damage. So that's not going to net a kill. Screammmmm goes back to base because he wants to try and stop the split push, but it looks like too little too late. And Haddix is going to try and stop the back. It seems to me like Coast is going to make it back just barely. So won't be in any threat of danger, but who is in threat? It's Ben.
Has to run away as well. No one's followed him. There's the double tap. Beautiful play by Ducky. Goes up into the sky. Is he going to go in? Probably not. Hurry. Playing aggressively. Ducky dunks down backwards. Gets the kill he needs. Almost finds safety if you're Venenu. But almost isn't good enough, Trelly. And it's a kill for the solo laner on the Hounds.
Nope. Not enough. At the very least, you hold on to your beads. And now,
of course,
the Ravens said, you know what? We lost our mid laner. The only logical explanation is to go for the Fire Giant. Ducky was already here and knew this play might be coming, was able to sniff it out. And now the Hounds should be making their pull. They drop the Bracer, and they do so. Up to the Ravens a step forward. Ducky's ult's the only one that's down, but Quig doesn't have the River's Rebuke.
Harry has blink in a little bit. Doesn't matter. He's going to be in combat. Scream goes in. Scream goes to the backline. The damage is so good. Immediately, the Thorns is paying off. Scream gets rid of Coast. And then a 3-man stun from Haddix. Ravens walk in and take the Fire Giant. Now it's chase down kills. That is their job, and that is their goal. Ducky is not going to escape this one. The hammer over the wall is good. Haddix looking to chase him down, but Oathhh is there. They have to be careful if they get caught in a 1v1. Vin has to be careful as well. There's 2 assassins hanging out of the jungle, maybe looking for him. Haddix still on the prowl. Coast, the only one who's fallen. Fire Giant on 5 for the Ravens. Tier 2 tower and right. The target.
Ducky's going up.
Goes up into the air. But does he go dunking in? Lights turned off. And he crashes down onto 2 of them. BaRRa's low, but he gets the kill. Quig turns it around. Hurry gets the low with the ult here. It's going to be enough. A double for the support on the Hounds. But Oathhh, while he's trying to make his own play, forced to fall back. It is a dangerous game the Hounds are playing right now. They get rid of 2 Fire Giant buffs, though, Trelly. Oathhh stays alive. Quig gets a double. Some wins tacked up for the Order team.
Yep, and the Tier 2 stays alive as well, which is a big deal, because that was going to be some free gold in the pockets of the Highland Ravens. BaRRaCCuDDa just barely able to finish that kill as Quig answered back. And there was an ultimate from Ducky that I honestly did not expect. When I saw him go up, I was like, oh, he was under threat, he was low HP. But he said, you know what, I'm making some sort of a play here. We need to try and stem the bleeding here from the Highland Ravens. And it ends up working out. Hits a multi-man Anvil of Dawn. Confirms at least 2 kills for the Eldritch Hounds, and as you said, taking the Fire Giant buffs away, which is a big deal. Only a couple more seconds left on this FG buff, which means the Ravens have an opportunity to group up and try and push down the towers on the left side of the map. Just about a minute is all they get. And you know, I wasn't quite sold on the Thorns, because I was like, you know, Scream's not building that tanky. It feels like they're just going to wait out your Thorns, and then you don't have a Beads relic. But if you're able to go in clutch moments like that where Merlin drops damage and can't pick it back up, and is either forced to eat your damage, walk away, and you have that much movement speed to run him down after, Scream really does make use of this build so far. It looks like it might fall off eventually, but if the Highland Ravens have it their way, it won't get to that point.
Also worth pointing out that Tier 2 and right they aggressed on. It's still standing. It's a breath away from death. but it is still up. Right now, 5 Hounds defending against 5 Ravens. Left side, tier 2, Fire Giant. Around the belts of 3 for 20 seconds. BaRRa, hurry. Without. Might need a little help. Scream blinks forward, tries to get aggressive, and goes for the Colossal Fury immediately. And that opens up just enough space to let his team get in, take the tier 2. Jelly, they get to fall back, reset for the next FG.
Yep. Good enough play, right? You go for the blink, create some space. Does the tower go down? Nope. Oathhh is able to defend it once again. So it doesn't die today.
A stiff breeze.
Yep. A stiff breeze is enough. But Oathhh put up wind blockers of some sort to make sure that it won't happen.
Most people call them walls.
I didn't know. I didn't know what a wind blocker was. But
well, like, so when you're sitting in your house.
Yeah.
Does wind come through?
Not that I remember, no.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Walls.
So Oathhh built a house.
He built a house.
In this case, it's going to help keep
Oathhh
the
tapped
gold.
out and he's playing Minecraft.
Yep. Well, he's able to keep the gold away from the Highland Ravens, so that's going to be a good start.
That is a huge play.
Yep. And in this case, the Highland Ravens are grouped. I'm wondering if it's going to be the blink in from Hurriwind, because remember, Scream Blink Colossal Fury just a moment ago. Won't have it for another 75 seconds. So you're either looking towards Haddix, who could blink Cavalry Charge, or, more often, it's been Hurriwind. First one in, set up, find some relics. At the very least, get some set up for the team to sort of follow up on this Geb. And it's been BaRRa and Ven more often than not. Still, so much damage from these carries. And don't get me wrong, BaRRa has died a few times, but it doesn't stop him from swinging. And that ultimate, I think, has also been an annoyance. It's hard to tell, because we don't get the lights turned off on us, but the Eldritch Hounds, once that ultimate comes through, do look a bit discombobulated.
Discombobulated.
Did I stun
That's what
you?
you discombobulated me.
It's a $5 word.
It's a $5 word, and my wallet's empty, man. I can't pay you for that one. Fire Giant. That's where the Ravens are standing. It's not been started up yet. Scream and Oathhh caught out in mid right now. And I don't think Scream wants the fight. It's a very difficult thing to read. The Ravens do. Quig just shredded. Does get to drop the River's Rebuke, but it's not going to find too much, Ducky. Up in the air, comes crashing down. Doesn't find anybody with the stun, though. And now the turnaround is there. Vin's low health. Wall is good from the Thor. It's not able to get the damage needed onto the mid laner. Vin half health. And with the healing from the Guan Yu, should get topped off. Fire Giant going to get started, presumably by the Ravens, waiting maybe to heal up a little bit.
Back.
They got to worry about this with the Thor coming back in.
Doesn't have the ultimate, though. Scream spotted it out, so Ducky has to run. Fire Giant is still the main target, and you don't have your healer anymore with Quig being gone. You do have to worry about the steal for BennyQ, though. We've seen it time and time again. Just a little bit of Merlin damage could be enough to break this siege wide open. The Highland Ravens are committing, though, slowly but surely. Pay attention to Oathhh. He's already in the back line.
Yeah, Oathhh on the side. Fire Giant does get dropped. Now re-aggroed. It's getting lower and lower. Haddix going for the zone. Ducky on the side. They're all looking at it. Oathhh looking to go in. Highland Ravens secure that one. Now they have to find the fight afterward. Damage onto Oathhh. It's so good. Oh, but he gets away. The mobility of the Susano. Too strong for the Ravens. Knock up. Not going to find Quig. Ducky up into the sky. You have to assume no teammates around. He's going to be falling back. Misses the dunk onto Scream. And it's not a stiff breeze. Instead, well, it's an umbrella, which maybe swung around and created a breeze. Knocks down the tier 2 in right. The Ravens have cleared out the towers of the Hounds.
The towers is right. The Pyromancer goes down, so a Runic Bomb will be in play, but Hurriwind, lazy backs, gets his back stop, but Haddix is still here to help out. Hurriwind with the Riptides is stuck.
It got a massive cataclysm, but there was nobody here. And BaRRa goes for the ult. Haddix goes for his ult. It's just an easy kill. Like you said, a lazy back. Those get punished. So everyone in chat, you've learned a lesson here today. Be like Hurry in every aspect except that back and that cataclysm we saw earlier today.
So maybe only a few ways. The ult was good, I suppose.
Yeah, it looked amazing.
Unfortunately, there was no follow-up.
If Vin's there, that might have turned into kills.
Yep. It was just Haddix, though, and that's the issue, right? You want your carries to back first, of course, because you don't want them getting caught out because they die so much faster. But without the follow-up, just doesn't look quite as good. you were curious, Haddix is at 4,000 HP. Thank you, Doug. That is a lot. It takes a while to shred through. The Soul Reaver, the kin size, they get value.
My God.
Yep, but it is also extremely annoying to try and deal with this Guan Yu. That's why if you're looking at the health bars, and it looks like Haddix is just a red bar, that's kind of the reason for that, because he's built so much of that HP.
Yeah, the segments, each of those is 100 health. Screams is also a little insane, just in terms of what it looks like. But I'm guessing just, 3,200, the 6 difference between them, imperceptible.
You do have to add the shielding, though.
3,400?
There we go.
Wow.
Now we get to see Hurriwind, just in case you guys were curious.
To compare it, we know that Haddix is hands down the tankiest.
Yeah.
Well, health numerically wise.
Until you start adding all of the shielding that just gets taken away from Scream, because that will start to put him above 4K for sure.
All right, now below 3K. As he takes a little bit of poke. This is the downside to playing against a Merlin. Narrow corridor, big abilities.
But there is a way around it, and it's not to group up 5v5. We've seen it many times where you just say, hey, let's send 2 people where the Merlin isn't, and we can just go for that Phoenix. So far, the Highland Ravens don't seem to care. BaRRaCCuDDa, the only one with a runic bomb. I'm curious what they're waiting for. Looking at their relics, Scream has his blink available. Haddix's teleport is going to be a non-factor, and it looks like they decided they didn't want to push. And if they didn't want to push, I'm curious what they were there for. Maybe they thought they could bait in the Eldritch Hounds. Maybe you wait out a River's Rebuke or Oathhh blinks in, something like that. Just sort of testing the waters, saying, hey, you guys going to go in? No? Okay. EFG was the fight we were looking for regardless. And to speak to their play, it was smart, right? Losing a pick right before EFG can be game-breaking, and the Highland Ravens want to make sure when they go for their actual pull, because we know how hard it was the previous Fire Giant, they've got all 5 members locked and loaded.
This one's going to be enhanced.
That's a fast Geb right there.
That is a very fast Geb. Speed buff, not often that you see any jungler willing to relinquish that. But if you think about this, Trelly, well, first off, it wears off. Unfortunate timing on my part. I was going to say, if you think about it, that's a really good way to maybe try and get Hurry in for a quick blink Cataclysm.
It would have been.
And maybe
Oh, he gets the bubble, though.
sometime in the future he'll be able to go for it. Like you said, gets the bubble. Cleanses himself as he leaves the Fire Giant, tries to keep his health as high up as possible. I think that's one of the things I was looking for over on left side was when is the blink going to happen? When's Hurry going in? When's Hurry going in? And who is he trying to grab? Benny seems like a good target. But when it comes to the FG, who's your primary? If you're Hurry, who are you trying to get?
I mean, it's got to be Quig, and that's why the bubble needs to be gone, because that seems to be the early target no matter what. He doesn't have beads. We've seen time and time again, blink in, stun on a Quig, knock up on a Quig, and he dies. That EFG is getting relatively low, but not committed to just yet by the Highland Ravens. They're still trying to feel this out and see where they can find an ultimate.
Haddix is going for the ult. There's going to be the bubble popped on Quig. Fire Giant, half health, Ducky in the sky. And he comes crashing down just between the Ravens. Damage seems to be good, BaRRa. Sitting far in the back line. Knock up, good from Scream. He's trying to find the fight, but hammer out from Ducky gets him safe. Hurry, falls low. Colossal Fury chases down everyone he can. The Hounds, just too defensive. Good at the disengage. It's been what they've, excelled at all game long. Trelly, it's still 5,000 gold separating them.
I thought they were going to go for a pull. I was going to say they are crazy if they do. Now Ducky's back. He does get a good wall on to Ben. He has forced into the beads. Where's the shield? I think Hurry has it. He's gone.
Yeah, nothing you could do. Quig does fall in response, but so does Hurry. So it's 2 for 1. The support dead on the Hounds, but they get so many high priority targets. Oathhh does get chased down by Scream. Good kills from him. Haddix, BaRRa looking for Benny. They just need one more hit. Aren't able to find it.
Haddix has to. He's
the
so
chase
fast.
is going to be there. He's fast. He's got the dash forward. That's going to be all he needs. 3 for 2. Coast and Ducky still alive. But Trelly, they're vacating the area. They know better than to stick around.
I mean, Ducky has ultimate, though. If he's able to catch BaRRaCCuDDa, no relics available. This could be disastrous. It's just going to be Coast. His job is to go in and stall. But check out Coast relics. He's got both of them available. He's going to have to do everything he can here. Look at the low health bars.
Good damage. Immediately onto Haddix.
Here comes Ducky.
Is just trying to tank things. Ducky Gets up into the sky. This could be massive. Scream is creating some problems, but Dunk into the backline looking for Haddix. Not able to find it. The Fire Giant still going. It's back and forth. Who's going to get it? The Ravens secure that one. Haddix goes down. So it is BaRRa alone versus Ducky in the 1v1. If he can get the autos. Oh, he's just a little short. Ducky lives, and BaRRa by himself has the Fire Giant.
Yeah, BaRRa didn't have the mana. He thought Rising Jaguar would be enough. Ducky's able to juke it. Massive ult, and that was Coast's job. He knew he was going to die, but he had to get in, get some low health bars, and give Ducky vision. Ducky finds it, but I got to be honest. EFG, it's on the only member that actually matters, right? That's your structure damage. If BaRRaCCuDDa...
He's got a 3k pot.
If BaRRaCCuDDa pops a 3k pot, pops his ult, and drops a runic bomb, that Phoenix is gone. There is no body blocking that's going to help you out. But Oathhh is here, and Hurriwind's got a blink ult. Take a look at Oathh's speeds. They're not available. It looks like not going to be able to find it. Both of the Magi's bubbles are available as well. So Quig and Oathhh aren't that worried, but might be able to go for some sort of ambush here on the Oni Fury because it's available, and they're hugging around just to make sure they can either A, see when it goes down, or B, try and fight if the opportunity presents itself. I don't think that's the smartest call, so the Eldritch Hounds are going to retreat for now.
No, you say that, Oathhh steps forward. Fury, low hounds, take it away.
Wow.
The Typhoon gets the job done. Trelly,
They baited me.
they baited you. They baited the Ravens. And sometimes, at least for Oathhh, it's just that easy.
Yeah, Oathhh said, all right, guys, you're good. You can have it. I'm just going to go get Purple Wef. Don't worry about it. Then he goes to Purple, goes,
JK.
I'm going to walk back up, actually, and see if I can steal it. Typhoon's down for the Phoenix Siege, but Oni minions will help out. Clear out the right lane and the mid lane, so that 3-2 split I was telling you about. But this is what I was also telling you about, BaRRa's ult. Just make sure that Phoenix goes down instantly.
Yeah, it's, such a quick kill. Hurry is getting traded out for that. Uses both his relics. The rest of the Ravens are going to turn back and run.
Ducky's got ult.
Ducky does have ult. Are they going to be able to chase enough of this? No, Ducky's backing. That's teleport. And there's a ward. And that's exactly where he's going, right where the Ravens are running. Might be able to find something. Up to the sky he goes. And they're aware. BaRRa separated from the team. Dunk down onto Scream. Wall onto Vin. Hammer double taps. There's the Berserker's Barrage. Shielding is good, but it's not good enough. Oathhh finds the kill onto one, and BaRRa forced to run away. You need this Aegis. He needed to go well, but no one's there to save him. Double kill for the jungler on the Hounds. The kills finally, Trelly, tied up. 3 gone on the Ravens, and some aggression for the Hounds on the map.
Yep, Scream's got to go back to base. He does have Blink, but no Colossal Fury. The Eldritch Hounds are pushing forward. They will not have minions for this siege, but the Phoenix is their target. Do they go for the end after is the question. It looks like low health bars mean it could be risky.
Risky.
They're going to
but
walk
still
forward,
walking
though.
Forward. 8
This is
seconds
hard.
For Hurry. Will have ult, does not have blink. Haddix, Scream, got to get a lot done, a little bit of time, and then Scream just gets
Here's
shredded.
Hurry.
It's 5v2. The tanks defended earlier today. Can they do it here? As Hurry respawns, goes for the Cataclysm, finds a lot, but they need a little bit more. Stun is great from Haddix, but it's just not enough to save the Titan. The damage, it's still there, and the Hounds tie this one up.
I can't believe that the Highland Ravens overstayed their welcome. Hurriwind on that Phoenix Siege. I thought it was a bit peculiar. He ends up by the door. I mean, BaRRaCCuDDa uses his ult, gets the Phoenix for absolute free. But then Hurriwind gets caught. They have to run away. Ducky makes a massive teleport in. And Vengus gets deleted through both relics, by the way. He had them. He used them. Still gets got. And then it just, we don't need minions. We're just going to walk up through Tier 2, walk up through Phoenix. And the end call was there. Scream didn't have ultimate. If Colossal Fury's there, you can't end. But because it's not, Vamana's not a character.
It just feels like there were so many moments where maybe that sentence, like Scream, spent a lot of time on the right side of the map. That early game, no Fury pressure, felt weird from the Ravens.
Yep.
There were a lot of moments where he would dive deep, and at first it was working out well for him. Kills, knockups led to each other. By the end, he went in very much what we saw at the end. Knockups, and then they said, cool, kill him. And that's the way the Hounds end up winning this one, Shelley. It's a long, drawn-out match. They pull us now to Game 3. We'll find out what happens right after this.
Ravens certainly knocked the Hounds down early in game number 2, but they just could not knock them out. The Eldritch Hounds able to bounce back in game number 2 after what felt like a devastating first 10 to 15 minutes of play. I mean, I walked out, I looked up at the TV. It's 10 minutes into the game, and BaRRaCCuDDa was 3-0-4. And then for the next 28 minutes of the game, Myth, the Eldritch Hounds just claw their way back in. They close up that gap. They fight around these objectives, specifically taking Furies after Fury away from the Highland Ravens. And it's the Eldritch Hounds on this defense, even being down a Typhoon on the last siege defense, were able to come back and take game number 2.
And then the decisive decision-making to go for the end when they did, I mean, that was clean as well. Execution on field clearly there for the Eldritch Hounds. They might find this bounce-back victory here in game number 2. I think there are a couple of things that could have changed the Ravens, namely in picks and bans. It's not the Geb, surprisingly. I thought the Geb actually did very, very well. But with a composition like that, I would have liked to see something a little bit stronger out of the jungle, something that has more consistent range damage or that can close gap a bit more easily. I just felt like very often I saw low HP targets just limping away from Scream as he chased them down to Colossal Fury. But let's talk about the good, and the good, I think, really is the guy on your screen right now. This Thor pick was just detrimental for the Ravens. So often Ducky worked his way into that back line, was able to separate entire escape paths with his wall, or maybe even stop a couple of these cavalry charges from Haddix. A few of those stuck on the Tectonic Rift as well. It's a much more standard year 10 composition from the Eldritch Hounds, and it seems the new age has won against the old here up against the Ravens.
I mean, Ducky as well with these teleports multiple times. We saw him use those to go back to base, reposition himself, teleport in, whether it be next to the Fire Giant or in the case of the last siege, right behind the Gold Fury pit. I mean, 4 of the Ravens were walking straight to him in a beeline towards the ward, sees him pop up, and immediately it's chaos that breaks loose at the top of the Gold Fury pit. It ends up netting a win for the Eldritch Hounds, ties up the set, and now pushes us to game number 3. So moving forward now, Mifflin, maybe for the Highland Ravens, you mentioned maybe change up the pick for Scream in the jungle, get him something that he can do a little bit more with. But do you also think that maybe this Thor could be an option, considering how flexible it is between Oathhh and Ducky, the performance the two of them can have on that one and what we did see? You think that might be something, maybe not in the first wave of bans, but potentially something for the next wave through?
It could be. I think given that the Soul Laner hadn't been selected yet by the Hounds, the Ravens very well could ban Thor going into second phase. If you think the Soul Laner has been selected and you think Oathh's going to take it, I think today you can leave the Thor available. You know, some days are just bad days for Thor, and they are bad entire days. And Oathhh clearly lost of his own confidence in Game 2 there. Gives over the Thor to his Soul Laner. But in a Game 3 situation, that's largely where we see teams really dedicate their bans to target bans. They don't necessarily stay in line with just the standard, you know, let's get rid of Aphrodite, let's get rid of X, Y, or Z. It's how do we address the direct strengths of our opposition? And it seems like the Highland Ravens, hell, Yemoja, BaRRaCCuDDa, that's where they want to be.
Yeah, making sure to ban away a big one from Oathhh, and then also taking that Yemoja away from Quig. Strong performance on that in game number 2, as the latter half of the game went through. A rough early patch for him to start things out, but certainly made a stamp known towards the end. Opposite side, Nox, Horus, and Serket ban. He's open to first pick Aphrodite for the Highland Ravens. Last time around, that was picked up in the top 3, alongside a Hercules and a Hebo. The Eldritch Hounds not going to let that one happen again. Currently hovering, and I imagine this Hercules will get locked in.
Yeah, Ducky, one of the most prolific Hercules players in the league right now, has been playing it very consistently throughout this year, and even in the play-ins has a terrific run on this god. What do you match up with the Hercules, though? Merlin's a very contested pick in this matchup. Both Ven and Benny love that pick, so could be, if you want Merlin, this is a good spot to grab him. Instead, an ADC lock-in, and it's Ram early in the draft. Literally every hunter on the table, BaRRaCCuDDa, choice on field, it's Ram.
8 games played so far, 75% win rate. A pretty impressive 5.1 KDA as well over those 8 games, so definitely one of his better picks so far this season. But you do give up the Vamana, you do give up the Hebo. Questions up in the air where both of these two selections go. Scream has taken the Vamana into jungle. Hebo's gone to Venenu in mid before in games prior, so could be. At least we see those two locked in now. Eldritch Hounds, they'll go ahead and grab BennyQ's pick right away. Merlin in the top 3. And if I'm the Highland Ravens, I might just be banning the Thor out now that we haven't seen that one picked up by either member of the Eldritch Hounds who like to pilot that pick.
Yeah, you could ban the Thor. I think that's absolutely fine. You know that Thor would be going towards Oathhh, but the direct matchup into Hebo and how much damage he's able to do, I think concerning. But if you're worried about the Hebo counter matchup, Fenrir makes sense as a ban as well. It's not something that Oathhh goes to, often, but something he did play in the SEC a fair bit and could very well be capable of locking in here. Has a great matchup into that Hebo, the ability to chase out the Crushing Wave with Brutalize or just bully him throughout the early game and make sure that Hebo, who is late game slanted, doesn't get there easily. Jing Wei from the Eldritch Hounds. A direct shot at BaRRaCCuDDa, but BaRRaCCuDDa's God Pool runs deep. Could just go ahead and go back towards some more standard selections out of the duo. Kern still available. BaRRaCCuDDa been playing this game for a very long time, so if he wants to keep in line with the OGs, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see him lock in maybe an Apollo or something like that.
Maybe an Artemis.
Maybe not the Artemis.
Probably not good the Artemis.
Maybe not the Artemis. Artemis might be better than Apollo. I don't know. Neither of those hunters are very good, but BaRRaCCuDDa has been breaking the mold a bit recently.
Good shot for you there on the Fenrir band. That plus Susano. Taken away by the Highland Ravens and a Terra. Immediately out for the next pick for the Eldritch Hounds. Now, Highland Ravens, we should get an answer as to where this Vamana and Hebo are going with these next 2 selections. Or it seems. Still need BaRRa's pick.
I think Cupid could be really good here now, especially
Cupid.
with Terra locked in. It's like a massive cripple field, a little bit more sustain. I feel like if you're going to run a sustain draft, you want at least 2 healers. One doesn't necessarily do it on its own. So Cupid brings a little bit of that. It doesn't really have any poor matchups on field right now. Could just lock down a Terra when she decides to use her dash. Very telegraphed. Hercules as well. Very strong for self-peel. Sure hope that's not an actual Arachne pick. Yeah, I could sell myself on a Cupid.
You know what BaRRaCCuDDa's highest win rate god is?
Is it Cupid?
It's Mercury. One game, 100%.
All right, well, more than one game.
Scotty, actually.
Oh, that makes sense.
24 games, it's 70,
sure hope it's not that either.
71%. I can see how far down it goes for the Cupid. Cupid 60, right on the dot at 35 games played. Arachne hovered, pulled away from. So this means the Vamana most likely now slanting its way over towards the solo lane for Haddix as we're bouncing between jungle picks and BaRRaCCuDDa, keeping us all on the edge of our seat to see which of the many hunters in his arsenal he brings out for Game 3 up against the Eldritch Hounds. We'll still have to figure out what it is that Oathhh might be going towards in the jungle for the Hounds, waiting to see what his opponent is going to be, what his direct matchup will be into as well. So Hebo back in the mid for Venenu. And a Tsukuyomi. Something we haven't seen in a while, but certainly something within Scream's wheelhouse.
It is, as great lockdown on gods that don't have leaps. Those call drops are really hard to maneuver, especially in Fire Giant dances or Gold Fury dances, and I'm not seeing a whole lot of leaps on the Eldritch Hounds. Ram, Hercules, and Terra essentially will just have to eat that damage if they want to maneuver through that space. Merlin can flicker through it, but if you're getting flicker for call drops, you're getting pretty good value. Kern for BaRRaCCuDDa. I like how this slots into the draft. I'm concerned with the Highland Ravens. Every time I see a mage support, I'm concerned with CC output, but Kern, to a certain extent, with Wild Hunt, alleviates some of those pressures. Tsukuyomi with the Kusari Gamma has the ability to have some single target CC as well. So beads, I think, not guaranteed for the Eldritch Hounds in any of these team fights. Should be able to burn through them pretty consistently here on the Highland Ravens. Make use of those burnt beads elsewhere later on. I'm just trying to buy time. I'm trying to figure out where Oathh's going.
Yeah, you never know with him. Set's something that he's played quite a bit, especially during his time in the SCC. It was something that he could run as that hyper carry style of jungle, but going up against the Hebo, Vamana, Aphrodite, even Tsukuyomi with some of that lockdown. You like the set selection here for Oathhh in the last slot, Myth.
I love set into Hebo. I hate set into Hebo Aphrodite, right? Once the Aphrodite is linked up, it just gets really difficult for set to stick to Hebo for one, Atlas of the Yellow River for slow immunity, so you're kind of escaping that skewer. You're also getting that additional protections from Aphrodite and barring all that back off as well as just another peel tool. up against a god that essentially has to stay barrel stuffed to do the bulk of his damage. But Set does have an okay matchup into Tsukuyomi if they find themselves in a 1v1. That could go either way. Has decent chase down potential for Kern. So I think Set out of the jungle. Interesting in that it's been a while since it's been locked in consistently, but still just a standard auto attacker with a bit more ranged poke for Oathhh. And once you decide to all in on Set, I mean, the damage output, if there's plenty of soldiers on field, that skewer can really run amok in some of these later game team fights. It's high execution. It's feast or famine. Oathhh clearly playing with some confidence here in game 3.
So Highland Ravens going to take a command in game number 1. Started off strong in game number 2 in the early game. Fell off as that mid and late game started to round out for the Eldritch Hounds. So Eldritch Hounds surely showing now that they have the capability to fight back in these late game team fights. And looking at the composition that they've drafted around to fight up against this Afro, this Vamana, this Hebo, notably going to be much tankier Vamana this time around going into the soul lane. Do you like the composition that the Hounds have built around themselves to try and fight off against this Ravens team?
Yeah, the Hounds composition doesn't necessarily have any glaring weaknesses. You've got strong initiation, good late game scaling, good on siege and on siege defense. You're lacking a little bit in sustain compared to what an Aphrodite is bringing, but you can match up some of it with that Terra. In combat, I think that's where the Hounds really need to make it work. That first team fight, you don't want to allow the Ravens to reset, and then the Hounds will look very good. Major question mark really is that last pick, the Set. How well is that going to perform? It could be that we come to the end of the day here after the game 3 and we say, wow, that Set absolutely popped off, and I wouldn't be too surprised for that. But we could also come in and I could very easily see it being a very quiet performance from Oathhh out of the jungle as well. Feast or famine, that's how it is. For those of you that were around in Season 9, similar to Erlong Shen in that some games you could just own, other games you don't.
We'll have to see which of these two teams come out on top as they battle for their opportunity to jump up into the first seed potential in the Order division. It's all going to come down to game number 3. And to do that, we're going to throw it over to Gore and Trelly.
Now, these two teams tied in the standings, and Trelly keeping things interesting as we get here to game 3. Winner, as J-Max says, gets to do a little bit of leapfrog. Ravens currently on top. Maybe the Hounds potentially giving us something to work with. And I'm excited, as always, to go through it with you, Trelly, and you, Chad, and of course with Doug.
Who's Chad?
Yeah, you know other chats.
Yep. Well, it's been a long day, Gore. I had to give you one. And in this case, I'm also excited. I think that Oathhh going to the Set does show a level of confidence, like Myth was talking about. You don't go to the Set unless you're pretty sure. Number one, it's got a good matchup, which it can do very well. Run down the duo lane. That's what it looks like to me. That's the reason this pick was grabbed. I also tend to agree with what Myth was saying about I don't love the Set into the Afro-Hebo combo. That's a little bit rough, but just about any mage with an Aphrodite link to it is going to be a struggle. It's going to be difficult to try and burst through and dive in the backline. There's just so much CC and disruption that can come through with a combination like that. But Set, the longer the lane, the more rundown potential and the least escapes that you're looking at, that's really where he can succeed. And when I look at an Afro and a Cernunnos pre-level 5,
yeah,
that screams to me everything that a Set would like to gank.
Well, makes me think that he needs to be over there on left. BaRRa away from the Xbalanque.
Unfortunate.
Despite the insane early game he had. Maybe the matchup in the ROM made him rethink things. Coast on the ROM. Frightened. And what he has been able to do on this pick. And Vin back on the Hebo we saw in game 1. And very notably, Trelly, he's rocking, I can't remember the name of this one, but the one that's not Hebro.
The
But
Shredder.
uses a lot of the same. The Shredder.
Yeah, Sydney Shredder.
Now, I need absolute knowledge on your preference. And maybe we'll have to pause that. Wall's good from Quig.
He's stuck.
Keep hurry in there, Coast. Getting some decent damage, but the shell and the disengage going to be good. Scream, Vin, pressure up on Benny. And Ducky, pressure on Haddix. So it's trading back and forth on all fronts of the map. But now back to the important thing.
Yes.
Sydney Shredder versus Hebro. What's your preference?
Well, I think it comes down to one thing, and it's Ripper versus Gnarly. That's what he yells when he ults,
Yeah.
and it's whichever one you prefer. I personally like saying "Rippa" every time I go in.
Ah.
So that is.
Do you ever use either of those
I go back and
in
forth
regular
all the time.
life? Like just in day-to-day?
Oh no, definitely not.
I definitely use gnarly in my day-to-day life.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad you do, but not me. I am, and this is what I was talking about, the early rundown. How much damage can Oathhh get on a Hurriwind, though? The shell already down, not going to work out. But this is where that set can really get active in situations like that. If Hurriwind was a little bit more forward, that could have been trouble.
Could have been an easy kill. Falls apart. And you didn't ask, but mine is Hebro. Not because of gnarly, but because it's the first skin in the game I bought. So it just has a lot of nostalgia.
I'm sorry about not asking, by the way.
No, I get it. Yeah, it's fine. It's cool. I'll just talk to myself. No, it's been a long day, man. it's fine. A long weekend. A lot of 3 gamers.
Yep.
And a lot of exciting SMITE.
A lot of
Some like that
40+
last one,
game
right?
sets,
That goes pretty long. And keeps things competitive. Speaking of keeping them competitive, Scream hanging out on right between Ducky and Haddix. You have to imagine. Going to get spotted out here. Has some damage for Ducky. The call trip's not going to find anything here. Oathhh engaged and aggressive. Immediate damage onto Scream. Not able to find it. Knock up from Haddix. Good. But no mana to work with from the solo laner. Barely anything to work with if you're Scream blue buff invade from Oathhh. He's
Scream
full on health and everything. Scream goes in, and Ducky, he's just going to take advantage of that one. That's an easy first blood, and the Hounds put themselves up on the board.
Well, either Scream thought A, Ducky didn't have enough mana for that, or B, was just caught out of position, said, hey, I'll go pull the blue buff, and the Hound said, no way, we're going to let that one go down for free. And that's one of the issues Tsukuyomi has. You have incredible amounts of damage, but no real movement. If you're in, you're in. And if you're out, you're not getting it. And that's the kind of the situation here. If you don't have your ultimate, that Piercing Moonlight, you're sort of just stuck where you lie. And Oathhh and Ducky were able to capitalize on that, grab a first blood over towards Ducky. And this Hercules is a problem. I assume a growing problem, because you'll be able to get plenty of farm with this Golden Blade completed. And then you can rotate in. You've got the teleport. There's a lot that this Hercules should be able to do. But one issue that I have with the Highland Ravens game number 1 was that they got a lead, and they weren't able to translate it to anything. They weren't able to look for these objectives. If Ducky is going to pull ahead, if he's going to keep this farm game up, he's got to be making those rotations over to Gold Furies, to Pyromancers, pretty much as soon as possible. Not necessarily this second. It's still very early, and this Golden Blade is not the biggest lead. But I'm thinking it can keep climbing, especially if he's able to just win lane up against Haddix.
So far, so good, right? 1-0. Level 6 to 5. Golden Blade finished versus still hunting. And we can see the golden hand. It's not like it's anytime soon for Haddix either, that he's going to be playing catch-up. So making a small difference, Trelly. But one that, like you said, nursed properly can become something pretty massive for the team. Aggression into the duo lane. You had called for Set to try and be over there pre-Undying Love. We saw it once, didn't work out. Now the Undying Love is up. Does Set even bother coming over here half the time? He's walking in this side of the jungle. And there's not a whole lot that's about to spawn in. Green buff. Maybe you go for an invade. Maybe it's the mid camps. Is there any reason to show face in duo?
Yeah,
other than to try and help Ghost?
If you're real far up, like the Highland Ravens are currently, Set can certainly still find a kill. It's just, Undying Love is a little bit of immunity, and Set will last for a very long time. So a play like this is certainly possible, but the great thing about the Ravens is they've got the ward covered, so they know exactly where Oathhh is. They're able to back up, and maybe try and fight for the shield buff. The skewer should be decent confirmation, but the stun just in time to try and help the confirm. And now it's able to dash out and grab a shield buff as well. It didn't seem like Gold Fury was the call. I was going to say the Ravens did do a little bit of damage, but just trying to get aggressive towards Oathhh on this set. And they're not able to pull anything from it.
I'm wondering if kills would happen. And like you said, if the Fury, I mean, it would have been early, right? 5:45 to start a fire, or to start a Gold Fury. Impressive, but the Ravens, like you said, aren't going to go for it. It's just a little bit of balance. Shield buff goes the way of Oathhh. And now the Hounds.
There it is.
Pushing forward. It might not be 5:45, but still impressive. 6:15. Fury started. And it's getting taken down slowly but surely. Merlin applying some burn. They don't feel confident in it. Presence
Quig even blocked them off.
from
Wow.
the Ravens. Just not enough. They were too worried.
It looked like Quig had the BaRRaCCuDDa was the only one who could walk in.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't...
The walls were too good.
Yeah, if you don't close the walls, there's no way for Ven and Hurry to really close that gap. No blinks available. So it really was just BaRRaCCuDDa go for the steal, and that's enough to make us back off. Or what I think happened was they didn't trust Quig to make that play. They're like, oh, Quig can't stop him, and here comes the Hebo. And Quig said, no, guys, I got it. Just burst it. And they were not able to. So no early Gold Furies going the way of the Eldritch Hounds. But this was the play I was calling for, minus Ducky, because Ducky didn't rotate over. He thought his team had it or didn't really matter. It's just, it is real early to be going for a solo lane rotation without upgraded teleport or something like that. So this Ducky, this Hercules has been an ongoing threat. Level 9, Haddix has been able to just barely match it. But every time we pan over that lane, Haddix is fighting for his life. I mean, he's half health or less because of the pressure this Hercules provides. And one Bastion should be dropping down here shortly just to show how much Ducky's been able to get done in the first 7 minutes of this game.
You know, gotta have conversations, I think, career-wide. Haddix, after joining the SPL, wildly successful. Ducky, unfortunately, career-wide, you start to see a lot of plummets in the stats, but seeing this season so far from him has just been absolutely impressive, especially the turnaround right now. Quig needs a bit of a turnaround. There's going to be the piercing moonlight damage deep, but Scream eats just as much as he's throwing out there. Has to play carefully and run away. Snipes, 1-2. All you need is the third, just a little wide, and Scream gets to walk out of this one. So does Quig. So kills on either side, falling just a little short.
That's the Aegis and the Undying Love, though, for the Highland Ravens. Was not enough damage, and that's sort of the issue. At level 9, Scream gets a kill. At level 8, you don't have that second point in your ultimate, and it becomes a little bit more difficult. BaRRa will get the XP by pulling that buff underneath this tower. Oathhh doesn't have enough damage with the skewer, and that will help out. But so far, it's been a lot of the Eldritch Hounds stepping up and fighting that aggression. Sure, Quig overstayed his welcome and got Piercing Moonlight down, but he ends up surviving, and then immediately turns on to Scream. And I'm going to go ahead and repeat myself. You're either in or out with Tsukuyomi, and he went in. In this case, Hurriwind was able to kiss him and use the immunity to get him out on top of the Aegis, but that's not going to happen every time. If the other towns are able to get ahead, and Tsukuyomi ults in but can't confirm the kill, he's going to be dying right where he stands. It is very difficult to get out in that situation once you've used your ult to all in, and you cannot find that kill.
The Ravens, outside of that small skirmish, and specifically from Scream, Trelly, I feel like they might not want the fights. The fights are being brought to them a lot of these times. Maybe you could go for something. Unfortunately for them, it has led to about 1,000 gold in favor of the Hounds, right? A lot of that's going to come from that first blood bounty a while ago at this point. I think the rest of it, for a while, the rest of it we were seeing was pretty much in solo. It's actually still 600, so a majority of it is still in solo. Everybody else roughly even, although 2-level experience gap. Venenu and BennyQ definitely showing up a little bit. Ven just now ticks to 11, so shores up a little bit of that. But you have to be a little more worried. I think this Hebo, we've talked about it a lot, right? Late game, it's still Hebo. Getting there is going to be the struggle. And I'd maybe hand it over to you, but Scream, Hurry, and crew look like they're looking for something in mid. Not able to find it. It's just a little bit of poke back and forth. Coast as well. Maybe looking for a fight. Oathhh, Quig, right around the corner from BaRRa. And BaRRa impressively steps up, stunned out. It's going to be over the shield buff that's scooped up by Oathhh, and BaRRa falls back.
I really did want to see the 1v1. BaRRa and Coast are going back and forth there. Unfortunately, Oathhh starts rotating over, and Scream was the first one to start walking over, which means it's immediately called out, and the ADCs can't have their 1v1s. But the amount of taunts and laughs these two have sent towards each other, it would be nice just to see one even 1v1 where they just go for the solo kill and someone's able to grab it. But it seems like junglers aren't leaving. BaRRa's purple spawns in, and Oathhh is there on spawn. He's going to make sure to steal that away pretty much immediately, which BaRRa knew. He backed up. He said, hey, good luck. I'm not going to be able to steal that one. I pulled one underneath my tower, but I'm not fighting a set. And I think that's probably the correct call, just to rotate away and come back with a full kin size completed. So the Cern will do a little bit more damage, be able to shred through some of that HP on the side of the Eldritch Hounds. But no fighting. No 1v1s, no sort of ganks. All fine by the wayside for now. I mentioned Ducky a while ago, and he still has been able to hold a relative lead here. 1 level over Haddix. Is taking a lot of farm in the back as well. The back camps as well as the Wandering Harpy. So that's going to continue. I'm telling you, Gore, it's going to be a rude awakening once this Hercules starts rotating into these fights. But has not left lane since. He got that lead, and he's been clearing out farm and trying to make sure that that lead doesn't dwindle anytime soon.
Bloodforge picked up for Oathhh, and I kind of want to ask you about it just because, admittedly, Charlie, everything else is pretty standard on the board. Bloodforge, something that we, typically would see maybe late game from like a Kali, maybe late game on a Mercury. Do you like it this early for Oathhh?
It's fine. I think Oathhh is planning on getting some kills and getting out with some low HP. That's usually the idea. The Bloodforge shield comes in clutch. Good power. It did get some nerfs, but the movement speed will start to help out despite that was nerfed. And the damage and the lifesteal still potent on a character like Set. You have to worry about anti-heal with Set because of the healing on his ultimate, and so far, anti-heal has not been prioritized by the Highland Ravens. Actually, some good damage. He's caught!
Sometimes you just have the delete button. Scream ends up going in because of his ultimate. But you have to imagine that's a clean kill, and it should be a clean Fury. Started up by the Ravens. And Trelly, just as we thought. No one nearby. Coast doesn't even go up into the sky. So a kill for the Ravens, immediately into a Fury. They needed that. They were starting to fall pretty far behind. 2,000 gold still separating the teams.
Yep, big difference, though, as Coast goes down because of the rotation. Was because of that guy.
Yep.
Haddix is here. If you were wondering, the guy who's ahead, the top XP in the game, Ducky's pushing towers. I don't understand why everyone with the leads are staying away from the team fights. That Gold Fury could have been massive if Ducky goes in, but instead he's on right. He is trying to bully the Highland Ravens over by the Pyromancer, and this is a great call. Fight with your Hercules. Fight towards the Pyromancer, but the Highland Ravens are here. It's not going to go down for free, and Crushing Wave's still available.
Yeah, knock up Water Hands good from Ven. And even though it's still a tanky Hercules, it's enough poke to maybe warrant falling back. Quig is still dancing around the Pyro, but nobody else is nearby, so they're going to leash that one completely. Drop it. BaRRa goes for a deep invade onto experience camps, and Trelly, sometimes that's a big difference maker. What was 2,000 gold separating them with a kill onto Coast and that Fury. They've now closed that gap, and we're talking about 10s, 20s, 30s separating the two teams.
Yep, and Haddix, he had to leave. He was gone for a while, so he sort of had to make his rotation worth if the Gold Fury wasn't enough. That's the reason they were able to kill Coast there. But Ducky still helped out his team. It wasn't like he was doing nothing. He was able to grab the tower. He didn't have his teleport. He couldn't follow Haddix, so he decided the smarter call is just to stay over in right lane. But I'm thinking, I don't know, 2 minutes prior, Ducky says, hey guys, I do have teleport. I'm ahead. I can make my presence known. Let's fight for this Fury. The other towns aren't worried, though. Like you said, still being able to stay ahead in a situation like that. The Pyromancer's the next big fight, and the solo laners don't have to walk very far to get to it. The only one not here is Oathhh. As the Highland Ravens pick it up, it's only Quig who's here. Terra's got to go for the steal, and he won't be able to find it.
Ducky loops around the back, not able to find the knock-up. Root is good from BaRRa. Root is also good from Quig. Was thinking maybe the Hounds, maybe the Ravens want to look for a little more of the fight, 15.5 in. But Trelly, they don't. They go for the Pyro, as you had mentioned. They pick it up. Hurry now has that sitting in his consumables. They might find a little more, though. Quig has to play it careful. Crushing Wave comes through. They just need a little more damage. Vamana, Colossal Fury chasing them down. Snipes going the other way. The damage isn't good enough onto Ven until Oathhh shows up. Oathhh with a nice shot picks up one. And they're going to go mid for support. Start factoring in the Pyromancer. Ravens come out slightly ahead, but that is not the kind of kill trade you want to be making.
No, it seemed like Ven was real confident, number one, the ult was going to kill, and number two, that it was necessary to find the kill onto Quig. Otherwise, you never ult in that aggressively on the Hebo. Good on Oathhh to be able to confirm that one because the snipes from Coast were not enough to find a kill. But Oathhh did just dash in front of Haddix, so he might have to back up for the time being. Only Fury. Still 45 seconds away, so it still will be a full 5v5 towards that objective if both teams want to step up. But the Eldritch Hounds should be feeling pretty good about that trade, as you said. Losing Quig, sure, it's a little bit rough, but getting Ven in trade, it's going to work out in your favor. And he lost his Aegis in the process. A little bit less safe to the burst on the side of the Eldritch Hounds, of which they have a bunch. The snipes from Coast, BennyQ and Oathhh, and then of course, if Ducky gets to the back line, sometimes you just throw the boulder just because to half health and carry. And Ven would be a pretty good target for that. Doesn't have much sustain unless Hurriwind is around to help him get a little bit of extra healing.
Dangerous game for both of these teams, right? You go too far in, feels like the pick potential on either side is insane. Oni Fury spawns in, and immediately we see everybody on the map rushing towards the left-hand side, pulled by the Hounds. The burn is there. Hurry, BaRRa, they walk back to lane.
They're giving it up.
Ducky is going to be spotted on this ward, but Fury goes without contest. And like you said, the Ravens just going to clear that one out. Oni waves now spawning across all three lanes.
They knew it was coming. Pinging out. They had the timer. They decide against it. The Oni Fury goes down. Now the Highland Ravens have to worry about those minions. BaRRaCCuDDa's not over and left, so that enhanced wave is going to push a bit and take away some of the farm. As we do see a bit of a grouping towards mid lane, but again, the objectives aren't here. It's not like the Highland Ravens are going to go for a pull onto Fire Giant. Unless they feel confident, number one, they can burst, or number two, they can win the fight after. But still, the grouping will succeed. I'm thinking the Eldritch Hounds aren't going to be the ones pulling it. They've got plenty of farm to grab. You usually want to just send your jungler over to left lane and hit level 20. The issue, however, is Scream does not have that luxury. Oathhh is one of the fastest characters in the game. He's got so much mobility. He's got the regen, the slow immunity. This set is hard to catch out over in left lane, whereas if you catch Scream in left lane, that is an easy kill. There is no way Tsukuyomi's going to get out in time. So you lose a little bit of that split push possibility, and it's actually Haddix who gets sent over to left. He's the only guy that can clear out these waves effectively and won't get caught out for free. So Scream's going to be a little bit behind here. Level 15, 2 levels down, and he can't just walk over to a lane and find free farm, at least anytime soon.
I thought they were going for a little bit more of a pincer. Vin and Hurry were walking about the same rate as Haddix towards where Oathhh was. It looked like they were just going to triangulate in on him, maybe collapse for a kill. Instead, it was a green buff, which is way less interesting overall, especially 19 minutes into the game. Trelly 1,400-ish gold separating them. In fact, even less as we start to see camps cleared out by the Ravens. 20 minutes into a game like this, when you haven't gotten to see maybe a full fight, it always makes me a little nervous, right? Benny's going to do a little more damage. Now with the Divine Ruin finish, Vin going to do a little more damage. I think since the last time they fought, Oathhh has Crusher now, Scream has the Brawlers. Like, it feels like everybody's getting power spikes that when you go into 20 minutes without the full 5-on-5, hell, even without 3-on-3s,
you don't have the damage.
You don't know what to expect.
Yep, you don't have the damage check. I think that is a big difference. Quig has been able to tank some of these water spouts from Ben, but he gets a big power spike, and then Ben starts hitting a bit harder, and Quig realizes, oh, I got to back up if I ever get close to Ben. And that's exactly what happens. Quig takes half of his HP, heads on back to base, and the Highland Ravens can siege forward. They catch out Ducky, who is not going to take damage the way that Quig is, because it's a 6-level difference between Ducky and Quig. This Hercules, as I've said, is a threat, an ever-present one. It doesn't seem like they're going to be able to shred through that health bar anytime soon. He's got the upgraded Sunder, and he does plenty of damage, but in situations like this, when the Highland Ravens are too scared to pull fire, which they should be, they're behind, Oathhh always does this. If you watch the Eldritch Hounds games, Oathhh is not with the team. He goes and tries to get level 20, and he goes to the left side of the map and says, hey, next time you see me, I will have an upgraded starter item, a full 4-slot, which Scream cannot match, and I'm going to do a lot more damage. It's the Brawler's Beatstick that he was able to farm for. And that's a big difference. Once again, the safety of your jungler, the speed at which you farm, becomes massive in a situation like this where Scream sits around level 16 and goes, yeah, I'd love to AFK and get that farm and hit level 20. I just don't have the luxury. I'm not safe enough. The Highland Ravens have 2 chances. Do they run around or do they make the pull? There's 2 over and left, and they're going to make the pull.
Yeah, they have the Fire Giant on their side. You mentioned the level difference, 3 in the jungle, 2 in mid, 2 in support, but in favor of Hurriwind.
Crushing
Fire
Wave.
Giant's getting low. Crushing Wave's gonna need to be there. Ravens get themselves the Fire Giant Boulder a little too late, but the snipes, they're so good from Coast. They catch Scream on the back. Now Hurry, trying to run away alongside his team. Haddix, polymorph for a little bit, gets the Colossal Fury. Is able to walk away from this one. 4 maintain the Fire Giant Trelly. The Ravens get a proactive play. It might just keep them in this game.
Yep. Beautiful call. You can see they finally caught on and said, wait.
You're only saying that because you called for it.
Well, I'm just saying because Oathhh has been over on left for half an hour. You're just letting him fast track to 20. Scream's never going to be able to match that, so you have to do something. And they said, hey, we're going to do something. We're going to go in for this Fire Giant. We get it on 4, and that's good enough. The Eldritch Hounds still in a fantastic position. Don't get me wrong. They are a threat. 3 members level 20. They just grabbed the Fury. They're going to go back and spend up that gold. But at the very least, the Highland Ravens took the Fire Giant off the map and are getting some free farm, which is much needed. I mean, the Highland Ravens should be confident in their late game team fight, but they are not a late game team yet. I would say the Eldritch Hounds are. They made it. When you upgrade your starter items like this, you have the late game team fight. The Highland Ravens do not want a 5v5 at the moment. They want split team fights, split aggression, and more importantly, split pushing. Get farm where you can. Scream only feels safe because he has a good idea that no one is on this side of the map. If he ever lost track for a second, he's going to book it back to the tower and say, all right, never mind. I need to be near my Aphrodite because I cannot survive.
Yeah, that link comes a lot more than just in-game control. Going to be backs and resets. Towers are still wild for, I want to say, this portion of the game. I mean, compared to what we've seen so far in this set. 4 up for the Hounds, 3 up for the Ravens. All 6 tier 2s on the board, and then that 1 tier 1 in mid, separating the Hounds from a matching game state as the Ravens. Pyromancer started. Ravens are able to get that one, knock up. Looked like it might have been good from Ducky, but the wall creates too much. Upgraded starter, you had called it, now there for Oathhh. It's just up to the Ravens where they put some of this aggression. They're down, still in gold. Need these towers to go their way to make up for that. Knock up onto Ducky. Burn is almost there for half his health bar. They're just not able to lock him down long enough to secure the rest of it. Tier 2 tower on right goes down. Ravens start to fall back. Oathhh with a minion wave on left might just straight up match it.
Yep. And Gore, I can't tell you how many Eldritch Hounds games I've watched where Oathhh has done this exact thing. Lets a couple Fire Giants go, gives up on his team entirely, says, trust me guys, I'll be back, but I'll be 6-slotted. I will be full build, and the enemy team will not expect that much damage. Again, Mifflin alluded to it, it's not easy to blow up a Hebo through an Aphrodite kiss. So it's going to be difficult. You have to watch your positioning. You can't just all in. You can't just know that your damage is going to be enough because there's an Aegis, there's an Undying Love, and there's an upgraded Fortifying Shell. But Oathhh is going to come back with a lot more damage and a lot more safety, which appears to be a Magi's Cloak. And I can tell you what that's for. It's for one ability and one ability only. It's for the knockup. He wants to get to Ven and not be sent to the sky because you can't Aegis when you're in the air.
All that time gone by, and I think the game only shifted ever so slightly. Both teams get a tier 2. And Fire Giant's about to respawn still. 5 minutes out from getting enhanced. There's the Bracer. Dropped early by the Ravens. DPS not started. Ven, knock up over the wall. Looks for some damage. Oathhh v Haddix in mid. Haddix coming out on top of the trade forces. Oathhh to fall back. Stays hanging out over in the mid lane. Fire Giant started out by the Ravens, half health.
Haddix in the back now.
Falling quickly. Haddix looping around. Benny might be the target. Coast up in the air. Snipes come through early. And that might be the opening they need. Haddix
but
goes
Scream's
into the Scream goes way too deep, way too fast. And VaporishCoast punishes them for it. Ravens get the Fire Giant, but they got to get out of here. Chelly Vin is the one who's the furthest behind. Has to use the beats on the retreat. Health bars are still low. Ducky looking for a little more. Knock up. Good into the tower. What a route. And the damage is there. One more auto. That's all you need from BaRRa. He's just not able to find it around the walls. Good jukes from Ducky. Good disengage. They lose Scream. They get the fire. Trelly, they're going to lose a little more in this tier 2.
Yep, and that was overconfidence from Scream. I mean, Haddix is in the back line. He can do that. He's a Vamana. Scream said, oh, I'm coming too. I can be in the back line. No, you can't. Not enough damage. Wasn't able to find the kill. Unfortunately, pays for with his life. He does end up zoning, which is great. But how many Fire Giants are the Highland Ravens going to get that do nothing? That is the question. The last one didn't really net much, but the Highland Ravens are pushing forward. Ven has no relics for the next 2 minutes. Scream loses his Aegis in the process, and BaRRa has no relics for the next minute and a half, we'll call it. And it looks like still sieging forward. That tier 2 tower on the left could certainly be defended. I want the Eldritch Hounds to walk up here, and it looks like they will. Ducky frontlining, and he's not retreating either. He's stepping forward. He's trying to find some damage.
He knows at this point. And what the Ravens have done
Is Scream going to get 1v1 in mid?
is stall the Hounds. Maybe Oathhh goes in. Piercing Moonlight used by Scream. It's not enough. The damage is there. A couple of snipes. Coast, you probably didn't need those. Have some faith in your boy Oathhh. A massive amount of damage now. Has to play carefully, though. Haddix gets aggressive onto the set. Forces him back. Clean kill onto the jungle. It was the same guy who didn't have FG, though. So, small win for the Hounds.
Yep. And this is why when you think about the top junglers at the moment, the Surkets, the Vakas, the Vamanas, they're all gods that are very difficult to catch out like that. You eat a minion, you jump over the wall. Oathhh can just throw a clone, dip out. He's got that immunity. Tsukuyomi, he needs his team, and there's no one with him right now. I'm thinking the Tsukuyomi-Afro combo could be pretty strong. The issue, however, is Ven's the carry right now. He's doing a fair bit of damage. He's got the delete key. You got to keep this Hebo alive, so I'm thinking Scream needs to stop solo agenting. He needs to group up with a squad. That's the only way the Tsukuyomi can be impactful in the slightest.
The ults maybe pulling him too far away, right? Keeping him.
Yeah, the link definitely would break if he ults in.
It's this weird balance where you want to ult in to dive deep. The minute he ults in, though, he becomes a solo agent, and suddenly the conversation turns into, okay, well, you shouldn't have ulted. Now you maybe need to be a little worried. Ven has been Hurry's primary choice of link. BaRRa's been able to get a decent amount of damage out there, but when you look at the top 2, of course, Ducky, Benny belong on that list. Trelly, this is such a it's a fragile game.
Yep.
Is the way I would describe it. There's nothing on either side of these right now that has me convinced that the lead for the Hounds is enough, and that the Ravens are in a position where they can't just shatter that, or vice versa, where the Hounds, even with this lead and the way that the Fires have been going, they could just smash through the Ravens at any given moment.
Yep, I would argue EFG, even for the Ravens, is not GG by any stretch. The Eldritch Hounds need to get one Fire Giant and they can push down. They have so much potential. They have so much damage. But the Highland Ravens, I mean, getting one Fire Giant does not change much, as we've seen. They keep losing one when they grab it, and in this case, Scream died twice, and they still were not able to even push down a Tier 2 tower. They stepped forward. They didn't have the confidence. They didn't have the damage. The Eldritch Hounds need to try and get a steal, because if they do, that's when we're going to see some action. That's when we're going to see some Phoenixes being sieged. But I do like the switch up here. Haddix now has the Hasten, which is going to let him use that Colossal Fury a lot more effective. He becomes much more of a threat. And it's the Highland Ravens that are backing up for the moment. They are going to let the Eldritch Hounds start the pull. But eyes have to be on Ven. He doesn't have Blink. This Hebo has to get in close if he wants to go in for a steal. And that's easier said than done, because Hebo into the Hercules, into the poke that Oathhh and BennyQ can provide, the snipes from Coast. It's a dangerous game stepping this far forward.
Hurry. Almost got out, forced to use the Undying Love super early in the fight. Haddix goes deep, finds Coast, but is getting shredded through his health bar. This is where that BennyQ damage is coming true. Snipes! Not quite good enough. And there's a little bit of healing, just enough to get Haddix out of there. Keep him alive.
TP.
TKO, TP, honestly might be the balancing factor.
He's got it, but he's not going to have ultimate, so when he shows up, he'll be a lot less effective. Good damage on Oathhh, though, from Ven. Now this set could be a non-factor.
All of a sudden, Ducky incredibly low, piercing Moonlight goes in deep, gets
There
the
it
solo
is.
later, and finally Scream gets to put himself on the board and get something going. Vin follows up, the damage is good. They need this kill onto Coast, and they're gonna find it. BaRRa threads the auto, and we called it fragile because this is exactly what it is. Shattered are the Hounds, 4 gone for 4 total minutes of death. Now, Trelly, they just get to mark it down right into the Titan room. Oathhh,
He's got ult.
we've seen a lot of this. Half health bars. What can he do? He goes in deep. He's got the damage. Knock-up's good in the knock-up. It's
Not
exactly what they need. The Ravens go from 3 kills to 8, and they close out this set 2-1.
Turns out all they needed was one impactful ultimate from Scream, and the Eldritch Hounds using a lot of their damage onto a Vamana that makes it out at 1 HP. If Haddix dies there, we may be talking about a completely different end call, but because he was able to make it out with the Colossal Fury, because he was able to juke just enough damage and teleport back in, and of course, I think Ven finding Oathhh before the fight began and just getting him to 20%
was
HP,
huge.
that was enough to make the Ravens say, yeah, let's go in. Scream, go ahead, ult it. We're diving to the backline for real this time. And that becomes so big. Oathh's able to make it back to base and try and defend 1v5, but we saw how that went.
It's those little moments, right? There's a world somewhere, alternate timeline. Oathhh just got a pentakill, and we've lost our minds because he saved the game, and we're going to go for another 15 to 20 minutes. Instead, what we see is knockups being just beautiful so far from the Hebo. Venenu playing incredibly well there. Good damage at the very end, you had mentioned, and of course Scream getting the dive. That it really opens things up. Haddix even getting the teleport back in. That really helps things out. Pretty much everything in the last few minutes goes towards the Ravens, and it was fragile. Glass shattered for the Hounds, and unfortunately that means they eat a loss here today. 2-1 victory for the Ravens, but that's enough from myself and Shelly. The desk will break it down.
That's right. The Highland Ravens end Week 4 with a 2-1 win over the Eldritch Hounds, finding themselves a victory here in the 3rd game up against the Eldritch Hounds. And this one a lot more even throughout the entirety of this game. Mifflin, a lot of back and forth to start this one. It really isn't until those last about 5 to 10 minutes of the game that the Highland Ravens were able to kind of break their way through.
Yeah, finally that Aphrodite combo is starting to work with the Hebo or at times the Tsukuyomi. That Tsukuyomi, I think, sleeper scary here for Oathhh in particular. Some of those disarms really stopped a lot of that aggression. It's not an ideal matchup, of course, for Oathhh, but it's one that he chose with full knowledge of what he was playing into. The chain CC potential from the Highland Ravens really made it difficult to be a set in that matchup. Otherwise, I'd argue BaRRaCCuDDa has a very good performance in this game as well. On a CC-like composition, you're really reliant on some of those wild hunts at making use of burnt beads or either burning beads. And BaRRaCCuDDa, throughout various points of this game, found himself doing A or B. Otherwise, standard stuff across the board from the Highland Ravens. Clean performances. Haddix, of course, does what Haddix does, which is play clean and be clean, and does so once more here. The Hounds, though, I think deserve some credit. They push this set to the limit. It's a very good set at that. Highly competitive SMITE, and the casters break it down pretty well at the end there. One minor misstep, one slight difference, and all of a sudden that game goes another 10, 15, 20 minutes if Oathh's able to find the silver linings or the opening thread. Fortunately for the Ravens and their fans, doesn't happen this time.
Yeah, for this time, the Highland Ravens, in this universe, they win out. The Eldritch Hounds unfortunately suffer down to a loss for themselves. It's going to make things interesting whenever it comes to the standings as well, especially going into our last week of play for all of these teams involved in it. Could be interesting to see how the remainder of that one shakes down through here. But with the Eldritch Hounds falling down here, the Highland Ravens push themselves to a 5-3 record. Right there, toe-to-toe, going up against the Camelot Kings. And the Highland Ravens look great to end this set out. A 2-1 victory for them. And you were talking about how devastating the Tsukuyomi looked. Well, let's talk to the man who got to pilot that Tsukuyomi. It's Scream, standing by for the post-game interview.
And you know what? We'll continue that actually right off of the Tsukuyomi. There are moments in that game it feels like you honestly maybe can't get done what you want to get done. You go in, get blown up. By the end, it finally works out. But what's going through your head throughout that game as you meet those troubles?
Yeah, so the Tsukuyomi, he's obviously a late game character, and I didn't really get off to the best start that game. We were a little bit behind, which makes the game pretty hard, and they did counterpick me, so the set could kind of do whatever you wanted on the map. And you know, but I think I'm confident going to late game as that character, and you know, it worked, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't think I did much, but
You got the kill on the Hercules. That's what matters the most, right? Perseverance for the Tsukuyomi and for Scream. It's something that I almost don't want to bring up, but I am going to ask about it because we were watching Game 2. You guys get off to a massive early lead, and it's mainly in duo. Why was it felt like you guys were foregoing Furies for a while. What was it that kind of kept you away from wanting to get aggressive on that side of the map?
I don't remember exactly. I remember us, you know, we got an early Fire Giant, and we didn't really make the most of it.
Yeah.
So, you know, but it was a experimental comp, I'd say. I brought the baby out for the first time.
Yeah.
I didn't practice it at all, but it worked.
Oh.
It kind of worked, you know. But it was probably just a lack of, like, you know, we're kind of trying to figure out what we're doing as the game goes on, and, you know, stuff like that happens sometimes.
We've seen the experimental comps. That's, I think, 2 sets this week, right? The first one a couple of days ago. Yeah, we'll leave that one behind. Yeah. I do want to ask you, though, about the standings right now for the Ravens, right? Obviously, this was a huge win for you guys. You're now, I believe, tied in win-loss with the Kings, and you're going to be playing against them, I believe, next week along with the Ferrymen. A couple of wins, and suddenly you can take first. How important is that feeling for the rest of the Ravens?
I mean, first seed would be great, right? I mean, especially for, I think, like Hurry, you know, coming in, and people doubted him a lot, but he's been owning, and that's kind of all there is to it. I mean, I think people have kind of slept on us a little bit, but we're still kind of nailing some things in. Obviously, we see, you know, the flash in the pan of greatness that we can do every now and then. And, you know, it's just, you know, I think we're going to be a good team once we get a few things ironed out.
Again, if there's still room to grow, I'm going to be blown away by whatever there is. It looks like a good team as it is. Congrats, though. You get the win. You come out 2-1, and you guys are climbing up in the standings. Congrats on your win. Thanks for your time. The desk will close us out.
The Highland Ravens now with their win puts them one step closer to maybe being able to take the top of the division, at least on the order side of things. Chaos Division, as we've talked about, pretty much already set in stone, but so close in standings for all 4 teams in the order division. Now 2 sitting at 5-3, 2 sitting at 4-4. We're going to look at the standings here in just a moment. Let's take a look at the schedule for this week, because we had a lot of great Smite this weekend, Mifflin. It all started back all the way on Friday. The 6 Ferrymen have a long 2-game setup against the Atlantis Leviathans. At one point, that set going to 52 minutes in that second game. Highland Ravens.
How do you remember that?
I was actually writing up the recap just before this, and
all
I
right.
looked back through and I went, man, that was a 53-minute game that we started there. Highland Ravens with 2 wins this weekend, both up against the Hounds and the Gladiators, and a couple of 2-1 sprinkled in all in between there. Oni Warriors get to keep their undefeated streak through 4 straight weeks of play, as well as the SPL kickoff tournament. So now they're sitting at 11-0 moving into the final week of play. And we can take a look at those standings, because I'm very excited to see how this can break down for the final week of play.
What happened to the Kings?
Chaos Division, well, we'll talk about the Kings. Chaos Division, that's pretty simple as far as first seed. Oni Warriors, they're guaranteed to go to Masters. Don't have to worry about anything beyond there. 8-0. All they can do is try and improve that 8-0 to a 10-0 by the end. But a pretty close battle there between 2nd and 3rd place. Leviathans, Dragons, and Gladiators all at 2-6. Anything can happen in this last week. Camelot Kings and Ravens tied 5-3. As mentioned, a battle between those 2 teams here in the final week of play. And Eldritch Hounds and 6 Ferrymen, both 4-4, battling right there. Anyone's game in the order division, as I think this might be a first that we have seen in a while of it being this contentious on one side of a division. And now we can move into Mifflin to see our final week in our path to Masters, the last series of games to be played. Starts out on Friday, 6 Ferrymen, Atlantis Leviathans, and the Oni Warriors and Gilded Gladiators will be facing off on Friday. Saturday, Oni Warriors, Jade Dragons, Camelot Kings, Eldritch Hounds, and Leviathans Gladiators on Saturday. And then Sunday, the Kings and the Ravens could potentially be the one that determines which of those 2 teams ends up going to Masters, and then the Ferrymen Hounds and the Dragons and Leviathans to close us out in our first phase of Season 10 of the Smite Pro League. All this leading up into what would be the playoffs. Then we'll have some SEC stuff happening after that, and then Masters is just a little ways away, Miff. I believe somewhere around a month or even less that we'll be seeing these teams competing for the Masters event.
You know, production, and feel free to do nothing, you know, could you pull up the standings one more time? Chaos Division is absolutely ridiculous. The Oni Warriors are just carrying that whole division. Are they losing all the out-of-conference games? What is going on? 2-6 for all of them?
The Warriors have won more games than the other 3 in their division combined right now. 8-0 versus the 2-2-2 everywhere else. It's the out-of-conferences that are making the big difference, especially over in the Order division. We talk about how important those ones are. Well, one division's been doing a whole lot of those winning for their out-of-conference matchups. Right now, it does seem to be that Order side division there. Should be fun to see who breaks out at the top for the Order division going in week number 5. Who's going to take second seed, I guess is the best way to say it, for the Chaos division in week 5 because of this ascension. It's 2-6 across the board that way. A couple more games to be played for every single one of these teams. 2 more matches to round out a nice and even 10. And the only Warriors, I think that's the second storyline to follow next week is, yes, they're guaranteed their trip to Masters, but can they beat the set streak record?
Where are we at? They're at 11 right now.
They're at 11 now. I believe 12 is the record.
12 is the record, 13 to break it.
It could even be 13 to tie it.
Who do they have next week?
They have, I believe, the Dragons and the Gladiators.
Yeah, celebrate early, Warriors. Yeah, go ahead.
Not 100% immediately right on top. We just saw the schedule, but make sure that you are tuning in next week because there are a lot of very important matchups for standings and a lot of very important ones for potential more record breaks to happen through. But that's all that we have for the SPL for week number 4. Stick around. We still got some more NASCC coming up right after the broadcast by our amateur team. But for us in the SPL, that's done. On behalf of myself, Mifflin, Cast, and everyone behind the scenes, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in week 5.